Hello, hello, hello. I hope everyone is doing well today. If this video has found you, we have a lot to go over once again. The news just keeps on coming with this administration, but I want to get into some. I want to talk about a little bit more than just ICE and what is currently going on. A lot. So I want to cover veganism a little bit. I had a conversation about veganism the other day, and it just so happens that I saw a TikTok that was talking about how come kind of leftist political content creators don't seem to talk about veganism, and I figured, you know what, I'm a leftist politics creator, and I'm also a vegan, so we can talk about some veganism. I also want to talk about Trump finally getting a Nobel Peace Prize. Yeah, that happened. Trump finally has one. It might not have happened the way that you are imagining it happened, though. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about we're going to react to a debate between Anna Kasparian and a content creator named Just Pearly Things. If you're not familiar with who she is, I'll go over who she is when we get to that segment. And just to talk about men in general and kind of like the violence that that white men typically get into, and the fact that it seems like they want to blame everyone in society for the problems that are mostly caused by them. So we'll cover all of that today. I guess we'll get right into it, and let's talk about ICE and what's been going on with ICE. So if you had not heard or you were not aware of this story, ICE killed somebody in their custody. This isn't like an innocent person that they killed in the street. They didn't just randomly grab someone out of the car and kill them. They didn't shoot some woman in the street. This is somebody that they had already detained and arrested, and he's dead in their custody. So this is Washington Post reports local medical examiner found asphyxia to be the cause of Geraldo Lunas Campos's death. Article is entitled "Death of Man at ICE Camp Could Be Investigated as Homicide After Examiner's Report" is written by the Guardian. It reads, the death of a man who was being held at a federal detention camp in Texas in early January may be investigated as a homicide after the local medical examiner reportedly found the preliminary cause was asphyxia due to neck and chest compression. Geraldo Lunas Campos, a 55-year-old Cuban migrant, was arrested by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, in July of last year, was pronounced dead on January 3rd. He had been in ICE custody at Camp East Montana, a sprawling tent camp at the Fort Bliss military base in El Paso. In a press release about his death, the agency claimed that he died after experiencing medical distress and said that the cause of his death was under investigation. The Department of Homeland Security had previously highlighted Lunas Campos's arrest as one of the worst, a category used by DHS to trumpet what they claim as victories of Trump's mass deportation campaign. All right, they had convictions of child sexual abuse, possession of a firearm, and aggravated assault. But in a recording reviewed and first reported on by the Washington Post, the El Paso County's Office of the Medical Examiner reportedly told a member of Lunas Campos's family that the office was preparing to classify the death as a homicide, subject to results of a toxicology report. Lunas Campos was one of 4 ICE detainees who died while in custody in the first 10 days of the year, and his death was part of a troubling trend. 2025 was the agency's deadliest year in more than 2 decades. According to a Guardian investigation, last December was the deadliest month with 6 fatalities. He was also at least the second person who had been housed at the camp, which has reportedly come under fire from human rights groups for reports of abuse and inhumane conditions, to die in recent months. Francisco Jasper Andres, a 48-year-old Guatemalan man who had also been held at Fort Bliss, died in the hospital after health complications last year. Representative of the office responded to the El Paso Times saying that the autopsy report is still pending and not publicly available. The press release from ICE about Lunas Campos' death claims that he had been put into a segregation because he became disruptive while in line for medication. It was there, officials said, that the staff observed him in distress and contacted on-site medical professional for assistance. He was pronounced deceased by medical responders at 10:16 p.m. Witnesses in the detention center with Lunas Campos told the Washington Post a different story. Santos Jesus Flores, who was detained at the camp where Lunas Campos died, said he saw 5 guards choking the man as he struggled after he resisted going into the segregation unit because he did not have his medications. During the struggle, Jesus Flores said he heard Lunas Campos say again and again in Spanish that he couldn't breathe. He said, "I cannot breathe, I cannot breathe." After that, we don't hear his voice anymore, and that's it, Flores told the Post. I think this is just yet again another example in a long line of not only police killing people in their custody, but ICE specifically killing people in their custody. So for everyone saying, well, if somebody like Renee Good had just done what the officers had said, she wouldn't have died. This is somebody who was actually detained and successfully arrested by these people. It seems like he didn't really have much of a choice whether he wanted to do what they said or not, and he still ended up dying. And yeah, I agree, Morgan. Once again, we see somebody who is reportedly being choked out, telling the officers that he cannot breathe, and they still maintain choking him until, he ends up having a medical issue, and they say, oh, well, there was some other issue. Surely it could not have been 5 guards choking on him that caused him to die. This is just another example of human rights abuses going on inside of these camps. Obviously, I think that ICE should be abolished. We should not have prison camps in this country where you can just be arrested and sent to because you're a migrant and then possibly murdered. ICE should not just be killing people in the streets as they did to Good. And we covered yesterday where there was a video of ICE just running into cars in the street and then pulling people out of their cars and arresting them. Which brings us to our next story, continuing on ICE. Federal immigration agents filmed dragging a woman from her car in Minneapolis. Now, it's like one person being dragged from their car. You might be saying, well, it's terrible that ICE is doing this in the first place, but why do you think this story became so widespread? Yeah, it sounds like overkill, and again with the I can't breathe. Yeah, no one listens when they say this. Yeah, an extraordinary contagious disease. I don't know if that would have done it either. They may have just ordered more officers to choke them, some to choke the person and some to choke the disease. We're not dealing with the brightest bunch, This is by AP News. It's by Riddle, Brumfeld, and Golden. It reads, a U.S. citizen on her way. This, by the way, it was viral in social media because of what happened to this woman. So a U.S. citizen was on her way to a medical appointment in Minneapolis, was dragged out of her car and detained by immigration officers, according to a statement released by the woman on Thursday after a video of her arrest drew millions of views on social media. Aaliyah Rahman said she was brought to a detention center where she was denied medical care and lost consciousness. The Department of Homeland Security said she was an agitator who was obstructing ICE agents conducting arrests in the area. So let's keep in mind, this is what the government's claim is that she was an agitator obstructing ICE. All right. So that video is the latest in a deluge of online content that documents an intensifying immigration crackdown across the Midwest city as thousands of federal agents execute arrests amid protests and what local officials have likened to a federal investigation. All right, so how did she get dragged from her car? Rahman said that she was on her way to a routine appointment at the Traumatic Brain Injury Center when she encountered federal immigration agents at an intersection. Video appears to show federal immigration agents shouting commands over a cacophony of whistles, car horns, and screams from protesters. In the video, one masked agent smashes Rahman's passenger side window while others cut her seatbelt and drag her out of the car through the driver's side door. Numerous guards then carry her by her arms and legs toward an ICE vehicle. I'm disabled trying to go to the doctor up there. That's why I didn't move, Rahman said, gesturing down the street as officers pulled her arms behind her back. So she was caught in a terrible and confusing position and had nowhere to go, according to Alexa Van Brunt, Rahman's attorney and director of the MacArthur Justice Center. Her only options were to move her car forward in the direction of ICE officers and being accused of trying to harm them, which led to Renee Good's death, or stay stationary, which in the end led to physical violence and abuse, Van Brunt wrote in a statement. And this is exactly the problem. So when you see something like what happened to Good, it ends up having this, downstream cascading effect where you end up having people that are so terrified of ICE that when they approach you and they say, hey, move your vehicle. I mean, well, we all know if you drive anywhere toward them, one of them might just jump in front of your vehicle and be like, oh my God, I'm being run over, and just shoot you or murder you. But if you remain in place, they're going to smash your windows and pull you out of the car and claim that you're an agitator trying to obstruct them, even on a way to a medical appointment on the same street, like the office is right there down the road. So a spokesperson for DHS disrupted the account in an email statement on Thursday, saying that Rahman was an agitator who ignored multiple commands by an officer to move her vehicle away from the scene. She was arrested along with 6 other people the department called agitators, one of whom was accused of jumping on an officer's back. The department did not specify if Rahman was charged or respond to questions about her assertion that she was denied medical treatment. The video of Rahman's arrest is one of many that have garnered millions of views in recent days and has been scrutinized amid conflicting accounts from federal officials and eyewitnesses. Often, what's in dispute pertains to what happened just before or after a given recording, but many contain common themes. Protesters blowing whistles, yelling or honking horns, immigration officials breaking vehicle windows, using pepper spray on protesters, and warning observers not to follow them through public spaces. Immigrants and citizens alike forcibly pulled from cars, stores, or homes, detained for hours, days, or longer. Now, yesterday, we covered a story of ICE throwing a flashbang into a vehicle of a father that was driving with his 6 kids, including a 6-month-old. The flashbang, when it exploded, the concussion of it was enough to set off his airbags, and it blew his car seat over. The child had to be taken to the hospital, struggling to breathe, along with 2 of his other kids that also had to be taken to the hospital. And this man was just driving, trying to just go about his day, but because he just got too close to the area, they threw a flashbang into his car. I think we've seen over and over again, and I know that the article is saying, well, there's, what's being disputed is what happened right before or after the incident. But when you go to TikTok or you look at videos that people are live streaming, you can see, if you take the time, like what happened before and then what happened after, and from different perspectives and angles. And what we see over and again is that ICE agents continue to escalate things. Like if there's a line of protesters that are across the street on the sidewalk, and then you have ICE on the other side with their line, they will occasionally just throw flashbangs into the crowd or just start shooting them with pepper balls, even though the crowd is not doing anything. They are just protesting, exercising their First Amendment right. But some of you that watch my content or that enjoy political content, you might also watch other leftist content, such as David Pakman, or you might, see people like Jesse Dollemore. So Jesse Dollemore was actually at one of these protests, and he gets like, I'm going to film. This is David Pakman reacting to Jesse Dollemore on site, and this is pretty funny. I mean, I will give it to Dollemore. He does not back down in this. Let's take a look.
Sense of the scene, video of, what? How can I describe it? A woman getting manhandled by ICE authorities. Take a look at this.
Careful. Back up! We need to film you! You'll murder her! We
can see once again, they've got their AR style rifles, full like military gear. For what? For peaceful protests. And of course, as we just covered, yeah, ICE will absolutely murder you. They murdered Good, and they also murdered Campos, who was in custody. So yeah, you absolutely need to film them because they might just kill these people.
We need to film you. You'll kill her. We get to film you.
So complete and total chaos, protesters being taken into custody, walked away, and just general chaos absolutely everywhere.
Yeah, and you could hear Jesse there yelling at them, "I hope you fucking die." Yeah, ICE is not popular, but this is going to continue, and you can really hear him get heated.
Now
in
then
just a
Jesse
second.
started getting himself wound up. And you know, when Jesse gets wound up, things can get very, very crazy. This was, I mean, listen, I'll just play it for you, and you'll hear the things that he is saying, and it gets extremely chaotic. And you will notice here at a certain point that the camera starts focusing on a woman in a wheelchair who has been hit by some kind of spray or gas and is not doing particularly well.
What about him?
He's okay, but we're not. Right now, bitch!
Yeah, won't anyone think of the children?
Nazi fucks!
That is Jesse right there.
Cowards, too ashamed of what you do to show your face. You little bitch. Half pint bitches. Half pint little cowards.
Look at this one. Arms out so he looks big.
Puff your arms out so you
Yeah.
look like a real man.
Jesse is just absolutely like going in on them. And I think that this is good because like at the end of the day, ICE is exceptionally unpopular. We covered yesterday that I think it's like 51% of Americans want the organization like completely abolished, just entirely removed. And I feel like confronting them like this and going after them and you know, whether you're cussing them out, no matter how you're peacefully protesting, telling them how you feel about them and what they're doing is a good thing. They should be forced to reckon with this, that the general population absolutely hates them, cannot stand them, and hopefully when this administration is removed, and however that happens, these people will be prosecuted. We already have the names of like 4,500 ICE officers that got leaked. Hopefully, these people will be arrested and charged for violating the civil liberties of all these people, all the property destruction that they're doing, all the people that they're murdering. Hopefully, they will be held accountable for this. That is going to conclude our segment on ICE. I feel like I hate ICE. I cannot stand them. They should be abolished. It's absolutely like disturbing what we've seen. They're just murdering people in the street. I don't know what else I could say any more strong than that. Like you can go and just, there are countless and countless and countless videos of them abusing people, of them acting extrajudicially, of them doing things that are illegal and violating people's civil rights. We would not tolerate this from a police force. Our military has rules of engagement. ICE, because they are just recruiting anyone just completely uneducated, not giving them almost any training whatsoever, literally just hiring anyone they can because they need to just fill bodies because they're so unpopular right now. It ends up creating a situation where you have under-trained, over-geared idiots. They're all going to be like really nervous and frightened because everywhere they go, people are yelling at them and telling them that how much they hate them and don't want them there. Now, on one side, you might say, oh yeah, but is it good to frighten them? They are murdering people and terrorizing our communities. Yeah, I think they should be nervous when they're standing around with their like little military gear because they know that if the people decide to rise up against them, there are a hell of a lot more of us than there are of them. And we could forcibly remove them if we wanted to from these environments. The only reason why they are allowed to be there is because these citizens are allowing them to remain there. When they say like, oh, well, somebody came out and attacked somebody with a broom handle. Oh, well, there were people throwing snowballs, right? I'm sorry, but think of our country. Think of the Second Amendment. All right, they could be doing way worse to these ICE agents if they so chose to. Now, I've advocated over and over again for nonviolence, for peaceful protesting, but to pretend that somebody throwing a snowball at an ICE agent is somehow, warrants extreme response is ridiculous, considering the firepower that ICE is using when people are being completely peaceful. You could just stand around with a sign. You could be on the side of the road with a whistle, and they're still going to throw a flashbang at you. They're throwing flashbangs and shooting tear gas at children that are unarmed. They're ramming people with their vehicles and pulling them out and arresting them. That's violence. And what the citizens of Minneapolis are doing and around this country, we have not escalated to violence against them. They keep trying to label peaceful protest as violence. They have not seen the violence that Americans are capable of yet. Kyle says, Oglala tribe has 4 members taken, 1 released. They've been held for 4 days. Yeah, I covered earlier on that a gentleman, Campos, was murdered in ICE custody. Right? They are just disappearing people. And they are specifically targeting, people that just are of the right color that they think that they can just abduct and disappear. And this is one of the frustrating things when people were trying to paint this as like, oh, well, Trump's policies and what is being impacted is more of like a white issue. I remember talking to some of my friends of color about like the No Kings protests and stuff like that. And they would tell me things like, well, black people just don't really want to get involved with this. This is more of a white thing right now. Like, y'all can do those protests. Like, we've been protesting. We've been warning you. Yeah, they absolutely have. And they've been right the entire time. And I wish more white people had listened to them. But they didn't. They didn't join the protest when black people were protesting. But at the end of the day, what ICE is doing right now, yeah, they murdered Good, who was a white girl. But at the end of the day, ICE is mainly targeting people of color. That's who they're going after. They're going after migrants. And when they say that they're targeting migrants that committed fraud, they're not talking about the Elon Musks. All right? Elon Musk is a migrant that committed fraud to get over here. He also is the world's richest man. So, they're going to let him stay, of course. Yeah, who cares about his fraud? Who cares about him migrating over here and making his billions of dollars by essentially building companies and stealing from other people, which could have been Americans that were here legally or migrants that had followed the actual process instead of cheating the system like Elon did. But there's no discussion about deporting Elon Musk. It's just absolutely terrible what ICE is doing. It's pathetic that the Trump administration is trying to pretend that this is anything. They're calling it like Operation Metro Surge in Minneapolis, when we recognize for what this is. It's just terrorism against blue states. Trump is trying to pressure blue states and punish them because they are blue states. That's all this is at the end of the day. All right. I said that I was done with ICE. I promise I'm done with ICE, and we'll move on to other stories. So, I don't know if y'all are aware or not, but Trump got a Nobel Peace Prize. He finally did. Finally got one. How he got one is a bit strange. All right, so let's follow this story real quick. So, why Trump accepting Mikado's Nobel Peace Prize is no laughing matter. Now, you might say, who's Mikado? This is her, Maria Corina Machado of Venezuela. Okay, she went to the Oval Office and she presented Donald Trump with her Nobel Peace Prize on January 15th. So yesterday she gave him her Peace Prize. Look at him cheesing with his face. Okay. It's just like whenever he was accepting like the Purple Hearts from soldiers and stuff like that. It's absolutely like it's stolen valor. You know, this is like Captain Bone Spurs that couldn't, serve in the military during Vietnam. He lied and claimed medical exemption. He never served, was never in the military, but had no problem taking a Purple Heart from a soldier. Now he's taking a Nobel Peace Prize from, somebody in Venezuela that was part of Maduro's organization. So Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado's presentation Thursday of her Nobel Peace Prize medal to President Donald Trump was instant fodder for ridicule among Trump's opponents. ABC late-night host Jimmy Kimmel even displayed a series of awards he had won or joked that he had won in the case of a 2015 Soul Train Awards White Person of the Year prize. He offered them to Trump in exchange for the president pulling ICE out of Minneapolis. The situation is certainly funny in a way. Trump's unquenchable thirst for recognition led him to accept a newly made up FIFA Peace Prize that was obviously created to curry favor with him after he failed to win his coveted Nobel. The ceremony last month was really something else, and now Trump has accepted someone else's Nobel medal, even as the Nobel Committee has made it abundantly clear that the award itself is not transferable. But in another way, it's not really a laughing matter, as Kimmel's bit showed. While this kind of ring kissing has become the norm with Trump, it's especially galling in this instance. You could have certainly been forgiven for thinking Machado felt pressured into handing over the medal. And regardless, the whole thing raises the prospect that some very serious foreign policy decisions with massive implications are being influenced, at least in part, through personal flattery. The saga began last year when Trump began engaging in an extremely unsubtle effort to lobby for a Nobel Prize. When the award in October instead went to Machado for her efforts to counter Nicolas Maduro, she seemed to sense an opportunity. She quickly dedicated her award to the U.S. president who so coveted it, all while suggestively playing up his role remaking Venezuela's government. We are on the threshold of victory today, and more than ever, we count on President Trump, the people of the United States, and the peoples of Latin America, and the democratic nations of the world as our principal allies to achieve freedom and democracy, she posted on X. In a later interview with CNN's Christine Amanpour, Machado again spoke of why she dedicated the award to Trump, but this time with a more explicit request that he help end Maduro's war on Venezuela. We need the help of the President of the United States to stop this war because it is about human lives, she said. Machado didn't directly respond when pressured on whether she was asking for an American military intervention, but she didn't dispute that either. Less than 3 months ago, that's what she got. On January 3rd, the Trump administration launched a brief mission to oust Maduro. Yet later the day, in a news conference, Trump surprised many and disappointed Venezuelan pro-democracy activists by declining to back Machado as Maduro's replacement. Trump said it would be very tough for her to be the leader and added twice that she didn't have the respect within the country. 2 days later, Machado appeared with one of Trump's favorite TV hosts, Fox News' Sean Hannity, who floated another potential gesture. He said he had heard somewhere that she might actually give Trump her Nobel medal. Machado indicated that that would happen soon, and it now has. One way to read all of this is that Trump's lobbying campaign has paid off, but it paid off with a woman who just won a major award, one for which she quite literally risked her life, feeling compelled to turn it over in less than 3 months later to try to keep Trump in her corner. Trump on Thursday did not signal a shift in his posture on Machado leading Venezuela, and the White House said his earlier assessment had not changed. The other way to read the situation is that regardless of the pressure, Machado used the medal as a bargaining chip. You could hardly blame her for using it for leverage given the stakes involved for her and her country. But this dynamic also underscores the real risks of Trump's emphasis on flattery, and it raises the prospect that decisions as serious as ousting a foreign leader and shaping that country's future could be made, in at least in part, based upon personal laurels. Let's just talk real quick about this, right? So it's precisely for this kind of reason that the founders put in the Constitution the Emoluments Clause that prevents federal officers from accepting gifts from foreign states without the consent of Congress. You might remember lots of talks about emoluments in Trump's first term. Foreign powers will intermeddle in our affairs and spare no expense to influence them. Elbridge Gary said, a gift of a medal from Mikado likely wouldn't violate the Emoluments Clause, given that she's not the head of state. A 2009 Justice Department legal opinion on then President Barack Obama accepting the Nobel Prize he won suggests as much. It said that the prize was acceptable because the gift wasn't from a king, prince, or foreign state. And Obama did donate the $1.4 million cash prize to charity. But Mikado seems to have reasoned that presenting her medal to Trump could have some kind of influence on him. So let's move over to considering this. So since Trump has become president, he has over and over again used his position as president to enrich himself. He ended up creating Trump coin so that any foreign nationals that want to influence our policies can end up just dumping a bunch of money into Trump coin to personally enrich him. He has doubled his net worth via these processes since he became president. And the last time he was president, he did the exact same sort of thing. He continuously is trying to launder tax dollars into either Bitcoin that he holds, into whatever, like the meme coin stuff that he has. It is 100% corruption and bribery all the way down. It is so egregious that I would argue that based on the Emoluments Clause alone, Trump ought to be impeached, given a trial, and also imprisoned due to these violations. It is against federal statutes. It is against the law. But we're already talking about a 32-count felon who did not, who never received any prison time. This is just the sort of thing that has been going on in our country. And when you start talking about, like, if Biden had done this or Obama had done this, I think it's very obvious that Republicans would have been frothing to put them in prison or charge them with a crime. Trump is doing this just out in the open, absolutely brazen. It's like the office of the president right now is for sale to whoever will either bribe him. Remember the jet that Saudi Arabia just gave Trump? They just, here's a plane. Why did they give him a plane? Because they wanted to curtail, they wanted to influence the president. They wanted the office of the president to, be more favorable towards Saudi Arabia. Therefore, they just give him a plane. It's the same reason why we should be worried as far as like elections go, because when foreign governments can just dump a bunch of money into Trump's meme coin and then influence our election, like our national policy could be dictated, and I think it's obviously is being dictated by wealthy people around the world. And the issue with this is that you end up having a situation, and I'm going to say something really spicy here for you. You want a really spicy take? You end up in a situation where somebody like Adolf Hitler or Mussolini is a better leader than Donald Trump. I'll say it again, and whoever wants to clip it, Donald Trump is worse than Hitler. And the reason why, I would argue, is that whenever you have somebody like Hitler or you have a Mussolini, at least a lot of the decisions that they made policy-wise and a lot of their aims and goals was because they believed that they were improving their country for their people. What they did is heinous. It's mass atrocities. They were evil, wretched, awful people, but they were at least principled in that. And when you follow through their plan and you read the sorts of things that they were saying to each other, it's understood that, well, they believe that this is just going to help the country in the long run. Even when you see somebody like bin Laden, who flies planes into the Twin Towers and kills a bunch of civilians, that man was willing to go live in a cave in the middle of nowhere, sacrifice the hundreds of millions of dollars that he had, because he was part of a very wealthy family, and go live in a cave somewhere. Now, I'm not saying that anything that these people did is acceptable or good in any sort of way, but you cannot deny that they had principles that they believed in, so much so that they were willing to just forego all of this in order to make their country better, or in the case of bin Laden, further the cause of whatever he viewed Al-Qaeda, his Islamic, his push for Islamism, essentially, and vengeance against the West. When you have somebody like Trump, this is a person who is extremely stupid, has no principles, and will sacrifice the lives of as many Americans as it takes, or Danish people. If we end up going to war with Greenland, he is absolutely willing to trash the entire world, shred up every single treaty, put us on the verge of World War III. He's willing to do all of that just to enrich himself. He's not even thinking about like what's going to happen to the country after he's gone. What's going to happen to like his children or their grandchildren after all of this is finished. He literally put on a cloak, like a MAGA cloak of America First, and sold like conservative radicals in our country on the idea that like, hey, if we vote for Trump, he'll just put policies in place that will make their lives better. When in all actuality, all he's done is enrich himself and harmed everyone else. Like, and at the end, also gotten people killed from all the warfare that he's been doing, all the warmongering, assassinations, bombing other countries, destabilizing other areas. Now, maybe his like the amount of death that he's caused has not risen to what we've seen in like other wars yet, but he's still got like 2.5 years left, and we're on the verge of World War III. All for the sake of, because he likes gold, shiny things, trophies, flattery, and people kissing his ass. I agree, Hannah. It's nothing but bribery. And Steph says it was OTAR, and coincidentally, that's where Venezuelan oil money's being banked. Oh, yeah. Lindsey Graham was cheesing with him on Air Force One, talking about we got Maduro and there was a bounty for him, and people were too scared to go in there and get it done. But Trump went in there and actually got it done. And the entire time that Graham is trying to set up the justifications that Maduro is internationally wanted, there's a $25 million bounty for him and all this stuff like that, Trump literally just leans in and is like, yeah, it's for the oil though. We really wanted the oil. It's so transparently obvious what's motivating him. He just flatly says it whenever, like even when he shouldn't. And at the end of the day, oh, Equator. Oh yeah. Okay, my bad. Stand corrected. For whatever reason, I was remembering it as Saudi Arabia. Maybe it's just because we've been, strange bedfellows with them for quite some time. But you're right. I remember. Yeah, Equator. That was what was it, Qatar? I mispronouncing that. But it ends up being the same thing. It's all bribery all the way down. You want to influence Trump? Give him a plane. You want to influence Trump? Give him your Nobel Peace Prize. You want him to like pat you on the back? Give him your Purple Heart that he never earned. Like, I just can't imagine like going over to Trump's like gaudy place, and he's got like a trophy case filled with medals and crap that he never even earned. It's other people's stuff that he's basically it's stolen valor all the way down. It's like he's such a fraud. He's so flimsy. He's so transparent that he has no. Yeah. Saudi Arabia. Yeah, Jared Kushner, 100%. Yeah, gave his son-in-law $1 billion. Yeah, I mean, Trump's family has absolutely done nothing but enrich themselves off of foreign money that's been buying our elections and influencing our policies. And to act like these bribes have no effect on him is just absolutely ridiculous. But that was the story that I had to cover with Trump. It's just, I cannot wait for this man to be removed from office and then prosecuted, or at least during the midterms, hopefully we can remove them one way or the other, and Trump will just be a lame duck for the next 2 years of his presidency. Just, we've got to, keep this stuff in mind. If people aren't aware of this around you, make them aware of it. If they're not aware of what ICE is doing, make them aware of it. We cannot, I want to repeat, the one thing that I'll say that Republicans do well, that as leftists, we utterly fail and suck at, and I started doing this because I just got tired of, like, right-wing talking points are all over the news 24/7. They beat on and on and on and on about the exact same stuff, and they would never let it go. They would edit film so that they make Biden look like he's wandering off when he's greeting paratroopers, and they're like, oh, Biden is dementia addled. Biden is dementia addled. Literally, Trump is senile, right? Play that video of Trump at the meeting with the oil executives where he just gets up and walks away from the table while he's supposed to be discussing, like, trying to bribe these oil executives, trying to offer them like $100 billion to go take the oil out of Venezuela. And he's like, oh, trust me, we'll pay you back. We'll pay you back. He just gets up in the middle of that meeting, walks over to the door and just stares out of it. And he's like, this is where my ballroom is. This is the door to the big, beautiful ballroom. And there's nothing but dirt out there. Don't let them forget that. Every time they say that, oh, Trump is fine or Trump is sharp, play that video again. Ask them to explain that video and what the hell happened. Why did his brain just melt and he wandered over to door and just stared out at dirt? Ask them why the hell we haven't gotten the Epstein files yet. All right. Republicans and conservatives talk ad nauseum, even debunked talking points. They will just keep bringing it up and bringing it up. But then on the left, we'll play one video of something and be like, okay, well, there's the video. The information is out there. And then later on, we might bring it up eventually. Every single time that you talk about Trump and conservatives, you should have a laundry list of these events that you can just call back to over and over and over. You should be able to pull up either streamers, TikTok. You should be able to pull up videos and be like, hey, what about this video? What about this video? What about this one? And just ad nauseum do the same thing they're doing, because there are no legitimate explanations for why Trump gets up in the middle of the meeting, walks over to door and just stares out at dirt and just starts fantasizing about a ballroom that's not there when he's supposed to be in a meeting with people who are literally losing thousands of dollars, like a minute, just being there at this meeting. They could be doing other things. Lilith says, yeah, Donald Trump is literally Asmongold. Oh, 100%. Donald Trump doesn't know shit. He's a complete dumbass. Like, he is so easy to manipulate. He's no clue about any of it, and he just regurgitates the things that other people say without checking anything. Asmongold does the same thing. Asmongold, like the Rat King himself, is like, oh, watch me stream video games and just absolutely talk nonsense about politics when he doesn't know shit. Every time Asmongold's been put on the spot, all Asmongold is like, oh, I just go off my vibes. I just go off vibes. You know, it's like, where's the statistics? Where are you getting, where's the evidence for this? He's like, well, if I think it's true, then I just go with that. And then he just says it. And that's what his audience does. They rely on things like truthiness. But I tell you what doesn't rely on truthiness. And like, I'm sorry if I lose y'all on this, but like, just bear with me. I've got some other, we're going to get to a debate and do a debate review where Anna Kasparian just absolutely destroyed Pearl Davis. But I also want to get to Kyle Kulinski on Piers Morgan's show, where he ended up going after Michael Knowles. However, I want to talk about something that I have not talked about like on my channel in quite a while. I made one video on veganism a while back and kind of animal rights. And this video was sent to me and kind of like brought to my attention. And like, I agree with this video in general, but at the same time, veganism is not something that like I've just overly talked about or made a focus on my channel, even though I'm a vegan and I definitely want to talk about vegan ethics. So temporarily, just bear with me if you can, I would like to talk about veganism. So this is the video I was referring to, right? Let's watch this video first, and then we're going to talk about it.
And the left-wing position to its logical conclusion, it should lead to veganism. Because what is the progressive position? Anti-oppression, anti-discrimination, protection of rights, but somehow it only stops at human rights. I would consider myself a leftist and a progressive, and I follow a lot of progressive political channels and people, and I don't know any of them to be vegan or ever talk about the issues of animal rights because they're not vegan, so they're not going to talk about the animal rights issue, even though, logically speaking...
I want to just stop it for a second. I don't think that leftist content creators, I don't know which ones of them are vegan and which ones aren't. And there's I know there's a joke about vegans. It's like, how do you know if someone's a vegan? Trust me, they will tell you, right? That's a joke that I've heard numerous times. I don't think it's that leftist content creators are majority. I mean, like, maybe they're not vegan, but we don't know for sure. Some of them I hear, like, you know, mention veganism or mention that they like are on a plant-based diet as like an offhanded comment, but they don't make videos doing that kind of activism, because the issues that you're bringing up when you say like, oh, they're, you know, they're arguing for leftist progressive issues like fighting oppression and that sort of stuff. If they're making political content, they're usually doing what I'm doing, like talking about ICE, or they're saying, hey, you know, here are two people that are kind of like ideologically opposed to each other. They did a debate. We're going to react to it. Here's what the president did, etc. When you're talking about veganism, we're talking about like advocating for animal rights. Obviously, that is going to be part of like a political agenda. But veganism is also just an ethical position on what are your stances on animal ethics. It might not be that you're going to put focus into, you know, arguing. Now, I think you should. I've made a video on veganism myself. And at the time that I made the video, I was kind of, I don't know, I was a little disappointed with kind of the way that I articulated that video. So maybe I'll get a chance to kind of like offer another perspective this time around. But I do want to let her finish what she's saying on this, and then kind of talk about why this came up in the first place besides just this video.
It should lead to anti-animal oppression. So if you consider yourself to be a leftist and you believe in anti-oppression and you believe in protecting rights of those that are weaker even, why does it stop at human beings?
Yeah, a lot of people, a lot of times people feel like we talk about veganism when people ask us what we eat. Yeah, 100%. So I want to just get to why this came up in the first place. So a couple of days ago, I was having some discussion in a public Discord, and I was chatting with some people, and the subject of veganism came up. And a lot of people there already know that I'm a vegan, so they asked me some, you know, some things on about being vegan, etc. And somebody had asked me like, well, why did you become vegan in the first place? And I became vegan over maybe like a year. It was like a year and a half process, right? I started just reducing the amount of meat that I was eating. I started to become more concerned about animal rights, because I started thinking that like, if I take animal abuse serious and I'm seriously opposed to animal abuse, then why am I only applying those standards to dogs and cats and to cute animals that I like? You know, if I had, you know, favorite animals that I would see like at the zoo, or animals that were, I thought were obviously are worthy of conservation. I know it's cringe now, but that's how I viewed it back then. I was like, oh yeah, of course, dolphins and whales, like we absolutely should, you know, we should conserve those animals. Let's just go full camera. I felt like we should conserve those animals, and they absolutely like deserved it. Like, you know, as opposed to some animals that I would view as like animals that were used as food product. And I had a cognitive dissonance that it's okay to eat those animals, but it ought not be okay to eat like dogs and cats and stuff like that, because people would say like, well, you know, in some countries they eat dogs and cats. and I would be I'd be repulsed by that. And then, or I would hear like some countries like eat horses, and I was horrified at that. I was like, no, like, why are you eating horses? Like, horses are like wonderful creatures. Why would you use them for food? But then I started, wrestling with the fact that, like, well, pigs are wonderful animals too. Like, if you've ever been around pigs, if you've ever seen them like playing and stuff like that, they are like adorable. But at the time, you said that you just had to talk about recently as work got lunch for everyone, and when they saw us check what was in there, they asked, they see that and they think it's all we talk about. They expect us to never talk about our diet, as they can talk about their favorite foods as much as they want. Yeah, no, 100%. A lot of times when you're like with like carnists or omnivores, a lot of times they'll say like, oh, how much they love like tacos, or they're going to order for lunch, and I'm like, oh, pizza, yeah, let's get pizza, and that sort of thing. But if you mention like, oh yeah, I really love soy curls, or I really enjoy this vegan curry or something like that, all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're being political. It's kind of like if somebody's talking about their sexuality, or they're talking about their struggles and what it's like to be like with like gender issues, and when they ask you about it, you're like, well, my experience with gender, or my experience with sexuality is also through the lens of like being trans. They're like, oh, now you're politicizing it. Like, before we were just having a good conversation, and now you've gone and made it political. And I feel like they do the same thing with veganism, where it's like they want to just openly talk about the foods that they enjoy. But if you mention the foods that you enjoy, now you're politicizing dinner, essentially. When in actuality, this is just like an ethical stance that we have. But I want to stay focused on the story real quick. So at the time, my wife and I were truck drivers, and we drove like all over the country, and we ended up seeing a lot of the conditions that these animals were being kept in. And I would end up seeing like, cattle ranchers. I end up seeing like trucks hauling chickens, trucks hauling pigs, trucks hauling cows. And, I'd be at like the gas pumps and stuff like that. And sometimes these animal haulers would park next to us, and I could like see the pigs in there through like the slats in the walls of the trailer. And like sometimes they would see you and start following you a little bit. And then they would like look up at where the latch was on the door, and they'd start like nuzzling the latch or stick their nose out, like they know where the latch is. They know how to get out, like where the exit is. And it's like, I could see the fear in their eyes. And, sorry, I'm trying not to get emotional here. That had a definite impact, on us. And so we started reducing the amount of like meat that we were eating. Cause like we knew that it was like, okay, we don't want to eat cows. We don't want to eat pigs anymore. Not after seeing like what was happening to them. And it was like, but it seemed like birds were still enough removed from being mammals that I could like still be like, okay, well, I'm not going to eat cows. I'm not going to eat pigs, but I'm going to eat chicken. I'll still eat chicken, and I'll still eat seafood, because they are, removed from being mammals enough that I was like, I think this is like, I'm okay ethically here. Like, I think I'm going to ethically draw the line at mammals. But then, I started like getting more interested in ethics just in general. And the more I started reading about ethics, the harder it was for me to justify, like, why am I making the cutoff line at mammals? And then I eventually got a book written by Peter Singer. It was from the 70s. The book is called Animal Liberation, A New Ethics for Our Treatment of Animals. And I read through this book, and I know that Singer has said since then that he was disappointed with how like seemingly little impact the book seemed to have had when he released it. But I can say that for sure that reading that book, that was like the last straw for me to become vegan. That was the last domino that I needed to read the philosophy on it and read the arguments that he laid out and the treatment of these animals, that I had to grapple with. Like, I cannot justify drawing the line at mammalian life and not care about like poultry or fish. And recognizing that dissonance was there, I began unpacking those ethical views. And that's what convinced me ultimately to become a vegan. And I know some people will say, like, well, philosophical arguments don't really move people. And I'm like, no, it moved me. Like, obviously I saw the suffering of these animals, and that was enough to get me to stop wanting to eat some of them. But the philosophical positions and kind of like grappling with that moved us to no longer consume any animal products whatsoever. And I've been a vegan for like 6 years at this point. I do think that, she had a point in the video that if we're talking about oppression and we're going to say like, hey, we've got to call out like the genocide in Gaza. We need to, call out ICE for their human abuses. We need to, protect migrants. Obviously, like I believe in like trans and queer rights. We want this liberation, and we want, freedom for ourselves and freedom for these other groups of people. But at the same time, like, we can work on more than one thing at a time. I don't want to say like, unless there's some perfect solution to this, then we just can't acknowledge it whatsoever. And I feel like we ought acknowledge people in the political sphere. We ought acknowledge the suffering of animals more often than we talk about it. And like, for a while, I've not really been doing vegan activism, like unless you count being vegan as some form of activism in and of itself. And like, I would pretty much only invoke it when people asked me about it, or if it came up and people were like, oh, well, vegans X, Y, and Z. I would, in the conversation, usually be like, well, I'm a vegan. So like, what do you want to talk about? And, I mean, there are some annoying conversations that I've had as well. I'll just like kind of touch on a couple of topics that I get a little annoyed about. And I know if I say, oh, I get annoyed about this, people just like spam me with this stuff, but whatever. I mean, like, so many knuckleheads have said these sorts of things that like, at this point, I don't care if people, say this stuff. So literally, I also have the chat box up. There you go. There's the chat. Sorry about that. I accidentally had it, I had it behind my overlay. But I get frustrated whenever I'm talking about vegan ethics and somebody will bring up plants. And, oh, well, what about plants? And it's like, plants aren't even sentient, right? It's like, when you're asking about like ethical veganism, the main concern is for like sentient creatures. Now you could say, well, doesn't that just reduce down into sentientism or something like that? Okay, fine. Maybe it does. Right? Because I feel like if I saw that there was some plant matter and this plant was sentient and this plant had consciousness, or this plant was, motivated, had its own goals, its own reasoning, and it like took actions to try and reach those goals, I would be like, yeah, we shouldn't kill and eat that plant. In the same way that like if an alien from outer space came down, I would be like, hey, that alien is not even life from Earth. But it's sentient. Therefore, I would say we should apply the same principles, and we ought to treat them with like some basic dignity. We ought not like kill them and eat them just because we have like a taste for flesh or something like that. And I know that this is just not going to be a popular segment. I know that a lot of people, they feel like it's just moralizing, but no, I'm being serious. Vegans are right. If you're not a vegan, I understand that might make you uncomfortable. It might cause some cognitive dissonance in you. Like I used to have cognitive dissonance before being a vegan. But at the same time, I'm saying if you care about animals, if you care about animal abuse, if you actually want to reduce harm to animals, the only logical conclusion is veganism if you follow that through. Now, it's not my fault if you have roadblocks that you can't overcome, or you're like, well, I just have such a strong taste preference for cheese or something, when it's like, no, they make cheeses you can eat. Like any food you can imagine that carnists eat, you can make that food vegan. And this is just something that people culinarily haven't seen in our society, because a lot of cooking shows and that type of thing. Like I remember Gordon Ramsay like shitting on vegans and mocking vegans and that type of thing, and mocking vegan food. But then years later, after he visited a pig slaughterhouse, he ended up saying after that he understood why people were vegan. Cannot stress that enough. Until you see it, it's difficult to even convey how these animals are like treated. And it's sorry to get emotional. It's difficult to think of the amount of suffering that they're enduring, than people to say, oh, well, to minimize this and be like, well, I like hamburgers, or I like pork chops, or something like that. And it's like, oh, okay, well, stop saying that you don't, that you're against animal abuse. Because like you're having such a selective preference for animals at that point that I can't take you serious. It'd be like saying, oh, I have an ethical stance against like the suffering of children or something like that. But then like you specifically go out of your way to buy like the byproduct that's made from somebody slaughtering kids. And like, I'm sorry, but no, you clearly don't care about this, because you're willing to buy the byproduct of them. Now, some people might say something like, oh, but you own an iPhone, and iPhones are made from exploitation, or something like that. At the end of the day, capitalism itself is exploitation, and just going about your life is like almost, it's unavoidable interacting with capitalism. But like, that's a slippery slope. You don't have to buy every single product. Like there are some products that might have been made with more suffering or more exploitation than others. And there might be a line that you ethically draw to say, I'm not going to buy this product because like I know about it. But at the end of the day, none of us have perfect knowledge. I don't know which iPhone company is more, or which, phone company is more exploitative than another. I don't know, which one of these like factories that produce like coca, I don't know which ones of those are more exploitive than another. Now you could say, oh, but Zoe, if you were serious about ethics, then you would know all of this. You can't know everything. But the vegan subject, it's at such a surface level. It's so obvious what the products are. The products are the ones made from the slaughtered parts of animals. That's it. You don't have to do a bunch of investigation. You don't have to go read political philosophy to understand like how they're being harmed. It is self-evident that you're buying body parts. You're buying blood and viscera. Like, yeah, they were harmed in making that. And just to kind of curtail, since we touched on harm, because harm was brought up to me by one of the other people, and they would say, oh yeah, but if you essentially found a way to painlessly kill them, like, you used a nail gun or something like that, not a nail gun, but you used a bolt gun, and you were able to instantly kill them, would that make it ethical since they didn't suffer when you kill them? And at the end of the day, first of all, I don't know how you're going to prove or demonstrate that there's no suffering when they died. And you're still violating their bodily autonomy and their bodily integrity. That's what I care about more than anything else, right? I care about whether you're violating autonomy and their bodily integrity more so than just a vague concept of suffering. If I had to narrow it down philosophically, like those are at the heart of it. I care about treating them fairly, and I care about treating them with justice. And no animal has done anything to deserve to be put in a slaughterhouse. And in no way, shape, or form could you ever derive justice from what's being done to these animals in these slaughterhouses. Yeah, you can't humanely catch one of these ants to get them out of your house, but veganism says nothing about living with pests. Yeah, you in fact do not have to live with parasites on you and that sort of thing. That's ridiculous. At the end of the day, there is some unavoidable suffering, and then there's like gratuitous suffering. Unavoidable suffering would be like, yeah, it might, you might kill parasites by not letting them feed on you. But gratuitous suffering would qualify what's going on in slaughterhouses. But like I said, I know veganism is not a like popular subject. I'm still going to talk about it because I still care about it. So just occasionally be aware you're going to get segments from me talking about veganism and animal rights, just like you're going to get segments talking about trans rights, just like you're going to get segments advocating for migrants. I think it is absurd what's going on to animals, and we all just, you know, at least majority of our population just turn a blind eye to it as if nothing is going on. I know that some people are going to see it as like, oh, you're just moralizing. I'm not moralizing. This is an actual issue impacting animals, and they are being slaughtered and killed. This is not just like, oh, you should listen because I'm moralizing. I'm saying that if you care about this subject, if you care about animal abuse, then you ought care about veganism, and you ought care about animal rights. That's going to close this segment on veganism. Moving on. There was a so on the Piers Morgan show, Kyle Kalinske ended up running against one of the people that I used to make fun of with PragerU content, right? Michael Knowles, the guy that said that we need to eradicate transgenderism from society. Kyle Kalinske went up against Knowles on Morgan's show, and this is like what ended up happening with that. And I want to make sure that I jump to. So Michael Knowles has a little segment. Let's see. Response. Here we go. Let's see what y'all think about it. So this is Knowles on Trump and foreign affairs.
How you do these things, and whether you plan and prepare
this goes
properly
totally
for what
off the
follows
rails.
next, that I think are the debatable points, and history says that's normally, unfortunately, been very badly done. But this is what I meant when I said to Dave that I understand the argument. I may not agree with
Michael
all of it,
Knowles,
but I do
nothing.
understand the logic to what Trump is doing here. Do you?
No, because we don't have a right to act like this around the world. We're supposed to be a nation among nations, not a nation above nations. And they used to at least lie to us in the past and say that this is good for the world and we're spreading freedom and democracy. Now they don't even bother to lie. Now it's naked, rank, disgusting imperialism where they say, we're going to take the oil. And the point is that we're going to take the oil. We're going to take the minerals. We're going to take the precious metals. We're doing this for our corporations. We're doing it for the Epstein class, the billionaires. And this, to piggyback on what Dave Smith said, is frankly not what many of the MAGA voters thought they were signing up for. They thought America first actually meant America first. By the way, you also replaced the Maduro regime with the Maduro regime. Congratulations on that. It's also been now a week straight of pro-regime protests. Now you have roving gangs of Venezuelan militias that are kidnapping Americans. But again, I come back to the fundamental point, which is if you sign on to stuff like this, you're saying might makes right and the law of the jungle is back. What you're saying is China has a right to go into whatever smaller country they want and depose the leader and say we're doing it because we can and we have the right to do it and we have bigger.
Okay, so Knowles is on. I know you can't see it because chat is there. Knowles is in a box to the right. Whenever Kalinske was saying, now you're saying that China can just go in and invade whatever smaller country they want to because might makes right, Knowles was shaking his head no. I'm just going to like challenge like any MAGA supporter whatsoever. If Kyle is wrong, I want you to give me an argument for why he's wrong on this. Okay? If we are saying that the United States can go and just take whatever territory or country we want to, we can just go and abduct presidents of other countries. We can just go, like we want Greenland and just say it's for national security, and we're able to do things like that. Why is it the case that China cannot make a similar argument? Like, because if we say like, well, when we talk about fairness or justice and we talk about like treating like cases alike, what's the difference in China engaging in the exact same behavior as the United States engages in? And do not respond with, well, these are American interests and those are Chinese interests. If like cases are alike, then China would be acting with Chinese interests at heart, and America would be acting with American interests at heart. If he's wrong about this, please explain to me exactly how he's wrong, that this is not might makes right.
For guns, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. So they're never going to address that fundamental question. which is why do we have a right? Do we actually believe in international law, or was that all a joke? Are we rolling the clock back to the 1700s and the 1800s, and we're going super primitive style here? And I think the answer to that is yes. They want to go super primitive style.
Today's show is sponsored.
Kalinsky said, are we going back to 1700s and 1800s? So let's keep that in mind, okay? And now we're going to jump to him and Knowles getting directly into it on this. Because Kyle already said, do we agree to have international law, or are we going to go back to the 1800s, 1700s?
And the conventions, the Nuremberg Tribunal, excuse me, the Geneva Conventions and the Nuremberg Tribunal?
Yes, those exist, but
War II?
international laws, the jus gentium goes back to antiquity. However,
And the
unfortunately, a
League
lot
of
of our liberal
Nations was
friends think
useless,
history
so that's why
began
we had the
a few
UN.
decades ago.
The League of Nations was useless. It fell apart, and that's why we had the UN. That's why we had the Geneva Convention.
Right, I'm talking about millennia ago,
because we looked
not
at
merely a
piles
century
of
ago. But
millions
it's true.
of
Woodrow
dead
Wilson
bodies,
failed
and
with
we
the League
said
of
that's a
Nations.
bad
That's
idea. We looked at piles of millions of dead bodies and said that's a bad idea. Let's not do that anymore. Let's actually have a framework and rules and laws. And Trump is blowing that up. By the way, he bombed fishing boats from Venezuela, Trinidad, and Tobago, and Colombia. He just did the regime change in Venezuela. He bombed Yemen and
he bombed
Somalia
drug
and
boats,
Nigeria
that's
and
true.
Iran.
Okay, so let's just set this up, because Knowles is trying to be very smug right here. But he's trying to phrase it, like what he's framing is that Knowles is saying that the current international law and policies have failed, therefore we ought go back to how things were before. And then when Kyle said, oh, so you want to go back to the 1800s, 1700s, Knowles is like, oh, no, the laws go way back into antiquity before then. Well, what were the laws before then? How is international law handled before the 1700s? All right, you're talking like colonizing countries again. If we're talking 1600s and previously, we're talking like the time of like monarchs and shit like that, where might makes right, which is exactly what Kyle was calling him out on. And Knowles is trying to be glib and pretend that he doesn't, that's not what he's talking about.
Iran.
He bombed
He's threatening
narco-terrorists.
Greenland and Panama and
Some are happy
Canada
about
and
that.
Cuba and Mexico, and you sit there the whole time and act like it's okay. Is there anything
Yeah, add Iceland to the list of countries they've threatened to. We've got Iceland on the list as well now.
Trump
It's
can do,
okay.
Michael Knowles,
It's
that
good.
you would say, I condemn it, and you hop off the Trump train, or are you going to tickle his taint for the rest of your fucking life?
No, there have been plenty of Trump policies that I've criticized because he's only right about 99.78% of the time. So the First Step Act.
Okay, he's only right 99.97% of the time. And now he's saying that the First Step Act is the only thing that he disagreed with. So now we know that, if Trump ever needs a colonoscopy, that he doesn't have to go to the doctor's office. He can just call Michael Knowles and ask him how his fucking colon is looking, because Knowles has his head buried so far up Trump's ass. He can just see the fucking, he can see the kernels of corn that Trump last ate.
I thought
Such
was
a
a
cuck.
misstep. But I would say the
Such a
rest.
cuck.
Excuse me. I would say the rest of the
Such a cuck.
the administration has been very successful.
Yeah.
What's your problem? What's
My
your
problem is
criticism?
that you're a cuck and you're a hack and you're not an independent thinker and you're meat riding Trump.
Why do you
and
say
you
that?
know that what he's doing in
I just
imperialism
answered your
and you don't
question.
care.
I just
Yeah,
answered your
99
question.
Yeah. Why do you think that I'm, riding Trump's meat? Maybe because you just said that Trump is right only 99.97% of the time. Let's be real, okay? I'm going to, hold on. Come here for a second. I want to be all the way real with you. If you have a partner in your life, if you have a loved one, someone you care about, how often do y'all disagree with each other? Where you have some dispute? Could you imagine if someone said that they viewed their partner as being right 99.97% of the time? That is sycophantic cult shit. So when Kyle says, oh, you're all up Trump's ass, you're just a yes man for him, and Knowles acts offended by this, why would you say that? And I just gave you an argument. It's first of all, you didn't answer anything. All you said was that Kyle was right, that you want to push policy, international policy, back before the 1700s. And that you scoffed at the idea, you laughed as we're bombing all these countries and we're going and whisking away their leaders and stuff like that. I'm sorry, I thought the America First people were anti-war, but now, because Trump is we should go to war, they're we're all over, we're all pro-war now. I don't understand how this happens unless you end up having someone who is, in fact, a political hack. And we've like covered this over and over again. Knowles is not an independent thinker whatsoever. He's a coward. He just repeats the other like right-wing talking points. He's like one of the lowest of the low. If you're looking at like low-hanging fruit on the right, he has nothing novel to say. He has nothing interesting to say. He's like the CNN of the right. He is like the most milquetoast right-wing person. Now you might say, but he says some pretty extreme things. That's just your average conservative. You could go up to like any Trump sycophant, ask them anything on any issue, and they will give you they'll regurgitate what Trump said, and Michael Knowles will just bob his head along and never give a justification for it, never give you any insight into what his political ideology is, like why he thinks the things that he does. He just goes, yep, Trump right. Trump said it. Trump right. That's all he's got. He's such a yes man. It's so pathetic. And then he's just like, well, why would you say that that I suck Trump's dick? It's like, because you're doing it live on the air. You literally said that the man was 99.97% right about everything. Like, I'm sure not even Melania agrees with him, right? When she like refuses to show up at locations, when he tries to grab her hand and she pulls her hand away and she's like, oh my God, don't touch me. You didn't pay to touch me yet. Right. Yeah, MAGA's like the human centipede and Trump is the first segment. Oh, absolutely. And Michael Knowles is definitely on the ass end of that human centipede. Like, it's got to be filtered through like Trump, Stephen Miller. It's got to go through Tucker Carlson. You know, it's got to go through Ben Shapiro before it filters all the way down to Michael Knowles. By the way, works for the Daily Wire, works for Ben Shapiro. So if Trump has, you know, Stephen Miller and these people up as his little puppets, Ben Shapiro has Michael Knowles. He's a Ben Shapiro puppet. I mean, like, he's even lower tier than Ben Shapiro is. Now you might say like, well, it's a, you know, multimedia network or whatever else. So what? These are the people that bought Trump gold sneakers. These are the people that bought Trump Bibles, that posted imagery of Trump being crucified and claimed that they were religious, that they were Christians, when part of their religion says that they can't have, you know, blasphemous symbols. If Trump being on a cross is not a blasphemous symbol, I don't know what is blasphemous anymore. Like, to have like images of the devil seems like that is mild compared to putting Trump on the cross, but they did. And they sold Trump Bibles, literally putting his name with the word of God. And they claim that they're Christians. Now, I'm just going to say that when you want to talk about, like, oh, is someone a Christian or not, right? I'm not going to, like, no true Scotsman this and say, like, well, only a true Christian would whatever. But what you can see, like, what you can tell with people, if they claim that they have a belief system, okay, then what you're going to expect to see are, like, philosophical commitments, right? I'm a trans woman. You can look at me and tell that I'm a trans woman. When I tell you that I'm a woman, you can see that I have commitments to this. This is me. This is who I am. Now, if I told you like I'm a trans woman, and I don't do anything else. I don't change my pronouns. No social transition. Nothing. Ever. Then you're going to say, hey, I have some doubt about this. I'm not saying that person isn't trans. Don't try to extrapolate that from this. I'm saying that when we talk about philosophical commitments to a belief, there are certain expectations you're going to have that if somebody holds these beliefs, they will probably act in a certain way. Everyone's different and going to express themselves differently. But even the fact that they're telling you they're trans tells you that they're trans. This is where you end up with this weird stuff with like the transvestigations and stuff like that, and why we would scoff. It's not because I would say it's impossible that anyone that they are saying in these transvestigations might be trans people. I mean, obviously that is logically possible. I'm saying that these people have not expressed any commitments to a belief that they are trans whatsoever. If they said they were trans, now we have some evidence here that they are actually trans. In the same way, if they say they are Christians, we would expect some philosophical commitments from them, some expression that they are Christian. Now, they might just tell you on the street, oh yeah, I'm a Christian. And you're like, okay, yeah, sure, this person's a Christian because they said they're a Christian. But if they say that they're a Christian and you see them engaging in like idolatry and all these things that are like anathema to Christians, then you'd be like, oh, okay, I mean, maybe they're a Christian, but they're a bad Christian. They're bad at being a Christian. And I just find this with like Trump's followers, like especially the weird, evangelical right-wing grift that all these people are doing. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see like people like Andrew Tate and stuff like that, who obviously, like, if I'm offering the principle of charity and I say like, okay, these people actually hold Christian values, then I would expect them to find people like Andrew Tate repugnant. So if Andrew Tate just says like, oh, he's selling a Christian, therefore you should just give him money because he's like, he believes in Christ or something. If he turned around and sold Andrew Tate Bibles and, was supporting imagery, retweeting or posting imagery of himself as Jesus, I think that's blasphemy. It's plain and simple. I don't understand why that would be difficult for someone on the right to spot. Like, I'm not Christian, but I would not do that to myself. I would not retweet those images like, oh yeah, I'm totally the Messiah, or I'm going to draw, I'm going to tweet images of angels standing behind me in the Oval Office, or like, I am the sword of God type of thing. I feel like that's obviously idolatry when you're posting images like that, like graven images. But I mean, what do I know? I'm not a Christian. I'm just saying you would expect them to have those philosophical commitments. But I think that Kyle Kalinske just absolutely trashed Michael Knowles. I think it's, he memed on him. It was hilarious. Maybe he used like crude language and stuff like that. And you might say, well, I'm turned off at seeing language like that and kind of like name calling going on when we're having discussions. I'm just going to say, like, when it comes to civility politics, I don't care. Get it out of here. I feel like there's a large portion of the audience that will actually connect with like dunking on Michael Knowles like that. Some people are going to need the intellectual argument and, hey, here's the statistics and here's a list of philosophical reasons of why you should support this or why you shouldn't support that. Or they're going to look at people who they think are upstanding citizens doing well in life and say, look, this guy he's well put together. He's respectable. I really like this guy. And these are things that he believes and he says. And because I respect his intellect, etc., you think that, his views and opinions are going to have more credence with you. And then you might have some people that they just like people trashing their political opponents. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you are into that kind of content, I mean, welcome to my channel. But at the same time, sometimes like you need somebody to just smack this shit down. I hate I hate this, civility. We have to pretend that all these right-wingers are worthy of respect and we have to address them and treat them with seriousness, when a lot of these right-wingers are just absolute clowns. They have no actual belief system. They're all grifters. They're all lying to their audience just to make money. They don't care about anybody. They don't care that, our society is just being trashed with the brain rot that they're blasting into cyberspace. All right. I'm not joking. I knew a kid that was like 14 or 15 on Discord that over a period of a few years, he's been groomed into a Nazi. He's like 18 or 19 now. And literally just spits out Nazi talking. I mean, literally Nazi. It's disgusting. When they want to talk about groomers and stuff like that, it's like they have no self-awareness of what, I mean, I know they know what they're doing, but a large percentage of conservatives, they're like, these are just conservative beliefs. And you listen to the things that they say, and they are saying things like white replacement theory. They are spreading essentially the Klan's talking points, like that straight up come from the KKK. And they're just repeating these things. And whereas before in society, we would say, like, holy crap, these are extreme talking points. Like, why are y'all saying such extreme things? Or there'd be social consequences for this. Now, I'm sure to the glee of the, of the Klan, their beliefs and talking points are way more aligned with the average conservative than they are considered extreme. Now, white replacement theory or great replacement theory is kind of it's a common talking point with the average conservative because it's been laundered by people like Tucker Carlson. And, that's one of the reasons why Ben Shapiro has been struggling to maintain relevance in conservative circles, because he's a Jew. And who hates Jewish people? The Klan. So when you have white supremacists that are pushing anti-Jewish narratives, and that's becoming the common conservative talking point, I mean, at that point, it sucks to be a Jew that is trying to pull a right-wing grift of a media network. We see, like, he's feuded with Tucker Carlson, and we see, like, Candace Owens left his network because she's anti-Jewish. And it's like, he made his own bed. He radicalized his audience against Jewish people because he continuously allowed those narratives to spread and spread and spread. And he helped some of these people grow their platforms, and they grew their platforms and they radicalized their audience further. Yeah, Hannah, the pipeline is set. Absolutely, 100%. And Lilith, most people love watching YouTube for drama. I mean, I do too. I watch it. We're about to watch a debate right now, and the reason why I want to watch it is just because it's drama. Like, Anna Kasparian absolutely destroyed Pearl Davis. And in fact, I'm going to stop just kind of meandering. I've been going on this for a second. I want to go over this debate. So I'm sorry for getting so fixated on going on about Daily Wire. I hate Michael Knowles so much. He is so, somebody has a punchable face because they're just so smug. I'm not advocating for violence. I'm not saying anybody should punch him in the same way that when he said we need to exterminate transgenderism, he did not direct any violence against trans people, according to him. All right. I'm just saying that some people have an incredibly punchable face. But I feel like I don't advocate for violence. And just remember, okay, if you do punch Michael Knowles, like if you do go over there and do that, you might hit him so hard that you punch him all the way into Trump's ass. All right. And I don't want that to happen to you. And I feel like that would be traumatic for everyone involved. So let's go to this debate. So for those of you that don't know who the hell Pearl Davis is, let's just go over her little wiki real quick. So Hannah Pearl Davis is known online as Just Pearly Things or Pearl. She's an American YouTuber and political commentator. She self-describes as anti-feminist and is known primarily for her cultural and political commentary relating to modern sex relations, dating, and marriage. She's an advocate for traditional marriage and marital relations and is critical of modern dating relations and the effects of feminism. She argues that modern women have been deceived by dysfunctional culture of sex and dating and that they should embrace traditional approaches to relationships to achieve happiness. Now, we're already in great replacement territory with this. Let's just go down to her political views. Going to go over this real quick, and then we'll watch the debate, because I feel like most of you are probably familiar with Anna Kasparian, and you know exactly who Kasparian is, but a lot of you probably are not familiar with Davis. And what Anna does to her is just brutal in this debate. I mean, like, absolutely one of the most crushing debate performances I have ever witnessed. And I've watched a lot of, like bloodbaths in some of these online debate spaces. Never seen anything like this. So Davis, so we're setting the scene just so that, like, I mean, we all have empathy for people, but let's keep in mind who this is before we're like, oh no, I feel so bad for her. She's a conservative, describes herself anti-feminist. She advocates traditional conservative positions in relating to dating, sex, and marriage. She alleged that through their dating and sexual behavior, modern women have effectively chosen soft polygamy as the outcome of the dating. Her perspectives have been influenced by the economist Thomas Sowell and the conservative political commentator Ben Shapiro. She's been described as the female Andrew Tate due to her extensive critiques of female behaviors and expectations. Most of her cultural and political commentary pertains to dating and sex relations between heterosexual men and women, but she sometimes takes positions on broader political issues and makes broader criticisms of female behavior and privilege, particularly in cases where she asserts that there are double standards between men and women. She also stated that the courts, the legal system, and all of society is basically pandering and simping for women. In an interview with Ethan Klein on the H3 podcast, she stated that if feminists want the right to vote, then it should come with the draft. So that's who we're dealing with here going into this. So Anna Kasparian debated Davis at this World War debate stage, and I was so fascinated with his performance. I felt like we should actually watch and react to some of this. I might play some World of Warcraft and just do like some chill streaming after this. But like for the most part, I want to just let's listen to this.
Are you guys ready for this? You ready for this big debate? I finally got
wait,
pyro.
Kyle.
It finally happened. All right.
And you can see once again, I'm sure those of you that are familiar with professional wrestling will notice that this stage and this program that they're doing, literally there was a wrestling program, like a pay-per-view that WCW used to do called World War III. And this is like World War debate. And they've got the scaffolding above it. There's like a Titantron in the background. They've got scaffolding as if it's wrestling. They're literally trying to make this stage setup with like pyrotechnics and stuff in the background as wrestling as possible. And that just kind of give you an idea about where this program is going.
Debaters, and to do that, let's go to Crystal.
Oh, I should put my earpiece in so we know when to go, huh?
I'm going to skip forward just a little bit.
A little bit of a
so they get them to walk out.
I love that we're having this conversation. I'm excited to scrap a little bit. And if anything, I know it's going to be entertaining.
All right. She said scrap a little bit, so let's get Pearl in here. Come on, Pearl. Here she comes.
Or activity that receives
They literally played music for it. It's so ridiculous.
federal funding is prohibited. Pearl herself had a rather impressive record playing for Elmhurst University's volleyball team, having earned all conference honors as a senior. She later pursued professional
opening statements. We're going to go ahead and speed this up though, just because I want to get through I actually want to get through the entire thing. And, they talk pretty slow.
Professional volleyball in London. She could have stayed in the United States and served in her role as a traditional woman, but she didn't. And she could have been the traditional chaste woman living out her dream of everything women were supposed to do before feminism. But she is neither traditional nor chaste by her own admission. While feminists would have no problem with her personal choices, she has made a career bashing women for theirs. Critics often argue that modern feminism has weakened families and resulted in a lower birth rate. They tend to dismiss empirical evidence.
Okay, so I just want to talk about the birth rate rule thing real quick that she touched on, because it's like this great replacement stuff, right? We touched on this before. Like, oh no, white people are having less babies. Why, like, if you were heterosexual, why are y'all so obsessed with reproduction? Why? It is creepy and gross. And when y'all be like, oh my God, like trans people, y'all are like sexualizing people just by existing, okay? Let's be real here. The people that are most often like sexualizing politics is y'all. Every time y'all bring this up, it's like, oh, well, what about puberty blockers? And oh no, what about the child's reproduction? What about their reproductive ability? It's just weird. All of the like the anti-gay arguments that I heard growing up, a lot of them were like, if you took all the gay people and put them on an island, then they wouldn't have babies. Like, why are y'all so obsessed with this? Like, I understand that reproduction is just part of life. That's just something that people do. But y'all are so weird about this. Why are y'all always so worried? Like, oh no, what about who's going to think of like having babies? Who's gonna think about that? Like why? Stop pushing that on us. If all of society decided not to have any babies, then oh well, we wouldn't have babies. Stop being weird about it.
Demonstrating the insidious impact of the internet, social media on modern relationships. They also brush economic instability under the rug, despite young people citing their personal finances as the main reason why they're holding off on marriage in the first place. In lieu of discussing those factors, Pearl spends much of her time discouraging men from getting married in the first place. During her debate with Trent Horn, she declared that men are better off shacking up without ever getting married. Her reasoning? Women are too fat and STD infected.
25%, that's a lot.
You did say that. She didn't stop to think about how they contracted the STDs in the first place. Data from the National Library of Medicine show that modern men are just as promiscuous as modern women. Men and women are in bad shape, and in the United States, we can discuss why, but feminism is not the reason.
Very good, thank you. Nice job. Okay, Pearl, we got 5 minutes, you're gonna be on the clock, and let's go.
Most debaters and commentators are elitists who tell average Americans from their ivory towers what to
Most debaters and commentators are elitist as part of her opening statement. But girl, where is your self-reflection? You're a debater right now. You are a political commentator, like you commentate on social issues all the time. I know you're like, well, most of them are elitist, but you're gonna say like, but you're not elitist. It's so ridiculous. What a stupid way to
this
open.
Question not only comes from covering current events and researching the facts, data, and statistics, but also in my professional experience interviewing over 1,000 people in America and Western nations. Feminism has given women power, and power corrupts. And that's what's happening. Feminism is robbing men of their disposable income and their prime earning years. Feminism has empowered women. It has empowered women to be sexually promiscuous. Feminists say that they fought for women to not subject themselves to the approval of men. Why then are 5 to 10% of women between the ages of 18 to 25 on OnlyFans or other prostitution websites? There are more online prostitutes in America than female Walmart.
I just want to say just for the record, thank y'all so much for OnlyFans. Y'all are saints for doing that. Love it so much.
Employees. 1 of 3 women will catch an STD at some point in their lifetime. 90% will catch HPV, which is incurable. Feminism has empowered women to abort 1/8 of the world population and 1/3 of Gen Z. Feminists have been so empowered to commit paternity fraud. Paternity fraud is unpunished in any state in the USA or any country in the West. If done correctly, a man will have to pay for a child he was fooled into believing was his until that child reaches maturity. In some states, that man will also have to pay for that kid's college. That is slavery and is forbidden under the 13th Amendment. 1/3 of paternity tests are negative.
What? Hold on. I heard her say, did y'all hear that? She said that that's slavery?
In the USA or any country in the West. If done correctly, a man will have to pay for a child he was fooled into believing was his until that child reaches maturity. In some states, that man will also have to pay for that kid's college. That is slavery and is forbidden under the 13th Amendment.
That's slavery. Slavery is having to like pay child support? What a wild comparison. How do we get there? Paying child support is the same thing as slavery? That's just wild. You know, it's weird. I always thought that slaves didn't earn money. I thought they didn't earn income. So like, why would you compare having to earn money and pay for something to be the same as being a slave when slaves don't make any income? That's kind of like part of being a slave.
1/3 of paternity tests are negative by the American Association of Blood Banks. Feminism has empowered women to rob men of their time, their resources, their reputation, their children, and in the most extreme cases, their lives. They do this through child support, alimony, false allegations, and paternity fraud. How many people in this arena have a brother, a father, an uncle, or a friend who has gone through this meat grinder? Anna has been on the air for 15 years and is completely oblivious to these issues. It's a silent genocide of the lives of millions of men. Standing on the sidelines of the arena.
Oh, it's a silent genocide now. Okay, I'm sure this conservative commentator absolutely like supports women that are like, being murdered and disappeared like throughout the country whenever they get, sexually assaulted, all these things. I'm sure she supports those victims and worries about them. I'm sure she agrees that like there is a genocide against like trans people and queer people going on right now. If she's going to say that like men, men having a suicide rate qualifies as genocide, like come on.
I have 33-year combat veteran Terrence Popp. He served through 3 wars and was almost killed in 2. He got married, had 2 children, and served in the United States Army. Terrence Popp was deployed to Iraq in 2004, and as a member of the airborne infantry, he was wounded by a roadside bomb and suffered a TBI and a stroke from the blast. He was evacuated out of the country, and it took over 2 years until he had recovered. While he was recovering, his wife was plotting to divorce him. His wife murdered his 6-year-old chocolate lab out of spite because he filed for divorce first. When he confronted her, the response he got was, "I told you, I did not want you living here." At this point, he was forced to leave the
Killed his chocolate lab. All right. So that's like just a Kristi Noem thing, right? Like, I just, I had a spiel earlier about veganism. Hopefully y'all have been made, y'all have been moved to veganism. But at the same time, like Kristi Noem is a dog killer and the conservatives seem to love her just fine.
The marital home and live out of his car. The divorce took away his home, his children, and left him penniless and saddled with a child support payment he could not afford. Terrence had to pay $144,000 over a 12-year period for a divorce that his wife was empowered by feminists to plan and execute. Terrence went into court to fight for 50-50 custody. Terrence was called a murderer and an assassin in open court and was given 96 hours a month with his children. 96 hours a month is not a father. While homeless, he spoke to many other men who would never get off the street.
Okay, so this is like something I'm just going to point out to you. Notice that she's not quoting statistics. She's not giving any data. She's not giving any stats. I'm going to highlight this because what she's doing is emotionally manipulative, right? She's just appealing to pathos. She's trying to make you like, oh no, what about this one guy? And what about this one guy? Because she's cherry picking the examples. You can go through and find people that have suffered inordinately in like any walk of life and say, I'm going to give you, like some examples of the ways that people have suffered. Now, those people, like when they are wronged, should not have been made to suffer that way. But that does not mean that on average, the average man that is paying alimony is the same thing as these other men. It's like if you have like a statistical spread of men and you say the average man isn't suffering anything like this, but then on the far end of the statistics you're like, oh man, this one guy was treated very poorly by the system or whatever, I'm going to pick his case specifically as like the sob story. I'm not saying that that this good that this happened to this man, but at the same time, let's be real about what's going on here. No stats, no organization that's been tracking any of this. She is just pointing out specific cases of people having poor outcomes.
Streets due to child support arrearages and penalties, and the men constantly getting arrested for unpaid child support. The disparage of losing his children and his home,
why do
and
we
his
keep
PTSD
panning
and
to this
constant
guy?
pain from
Like,
his wounds, he became
who
suicidal.
is that guy?
Well, at his post in 2008, a former commander of his came to see him to secretly say his last goodbyes. The next day, Mr. Popp's former commander put on his dress blues and went to the Holy National Veterans Cemetery and blew his brains out. Terrence Popp was notified of the death and was shocked because he was planning to commit suicide in the exact same manner. So in effect, his former commander took the bullet that was meant for him. Terrence Popp decided he would not kill himself and has spent the last 20 years saving 576 men from suicide with comedy. If you look to the left of the stage, Terrence is holding the dog tags for every life that he has saved. Now, why am I telling you this? Shout out to Terrence. Yeah. Now, why am I telling you this? Because
I'm going to point out to the same people that are, here's this token guy that has like done some work. Calling out some rando, and it's like all the men are just teary-eyed and stuff, despite the fact that like if we talk about suicide rates among like other groups, this is a heavy subject, right? And if you need like help or counseling, like I urge you to like call someone or contact someone if you so need it. Suicide is not something like to make fun of, although they make fun of our suicides all the time with the like 42% crap and all the memes and stuff they make about it. And this is what my issue is in general, like with men on this subject, because we could say like, well, suicide is a serious subject, and like anyone that needs support ought get that, and we should offer social support for people that need those services. But that's part of the like intersection with feminism. You can still get that outcome with feminism. They're not offering that. They're just saying, look, these guys were upset. Some of them were, depressed and, considered doing some pretty extreme things and taking a permanent solution to what is, typically like temporary problems. And this guy went and did some activist work, whatever. Good on him for saving lives. But let's not pretend that just because this guy went and did some good activism, this guy has gone and helped some men that are in dark places. That doesn't mean that men get like screwed in alimony. That doesn't make any of the initial claims that she's made about feminism true. All she has said is there are some men that struggle with mental health and they need support. That's true. That's the only conclusion that we can draw from everything that she said. Because she hasn't made the case otherwise.
Because of the empowerment that feminists like Anna have pushed.
Oh yeah, and especially talking about veterans. Like, the way that veterans are treated, the trauma that they endure when they go overseas, being in, combat situations, etc., or the things that they themselves do to other people and they have trouble reckoning with, right? I'm not surprised that a lot of veterans are traumatized, but she's trying to spin it now like, oh, it's feminism's fault that these men are traumatized when it's their literal fucking job that did it.
I'm telling you this because men and American veterans are put in this position because of the empowerment that feminists like Anna have pushed for. There are millions of men that have died in this country from the political power that feminism pushes. Since 1970, an estimated 1.6 million men have committed suicide.
100%, Kyle.
If feminists
it is
care
a
about
societal
equality,
responsibility.
Why aren't they fighting for equality in divorce and family court as hard as they are fighting for abortion, working, or becoming sex workers? Thank you.
Okay, this is going to be a heavy one. We're going to go now to the opening interrogations. We have 10 minutes. Do we have that on the clock? Yeah, it's fading in right there. Okay, and take it away. 10 minutes.
All right, prepare yourselves.
Who's interrogating who?
Whoever wants to begin.
Aside from the specific anecdote that you shared, which of course is tragic, can you cite some actual studies that look at the statistics and back up what you say in regard to the outcomes of marriage and divorce in America?
41% of 109 rape cases reported to police in a Midwestern city were admitted to be false by complainants.
In one Midwestern city? And which Midwestern city was that?
You can go from your ivory tower and
I'm not in an ivory tower. I'm on this debate.
Okay, she literally started the debate by saying that, like, oh, a lot of commentators debaters are in an ivory tower. Like, that's where she started from. But if she's gonna quote some stat like, oh, 41% of all rape cases in a Midwestern town were admitted to be false, where are you getting that from? If I made the claim, y'all have seen when I'm covering articles, I will tell you the name of the article, where it came from, and who wrote it. Very often in these like political commentary spaces, there is a problem, not with like some elitism or like, ivory towers and stuff like that. I'm sorry, but it's not college professors that like turn on a camera and start recording political content. It's people like me. You can go like just your average citizen, right? Now there are like your Joe Rogans, right? He's not an ivory tower person. What conservative commentator? Maybe Jordan Peterson, right? Like someone like that was actually credentialed and used those credentials to try and give himself like more weight to what he was saying. But in general, when you talk about like large conservative or liberal like commentators, if you're talking about people like the Destiny Voshes, etc., a lot of those people don't have degrees. They're just random people that started doing this and covering it. And very often, there's a lot of times not even like minimal journalistic standards that are done. And that's why like I go out of my way to at least try to tell you. It might get annoying and you say like, Zoe, why are you telling us the title and going over this? Because I want you to know the article I'm reading, where it came from, and when I see who wrote it, I'll tell you who also wrote it. To bring this up at a debate and not be able to cite your source and at least say what city are you talking about? How did you get the information? Is damning. This is like debate 101 type stuff.
Stage interrogating your assertions, and you've only provided an anecdote.
Yeah, asking for a source means
data,
ivory
which
tower.
I did, of course, you'll find that women are twice as likely to fall into poverty after divorce.
Right, because
alimony is paid out in 10% of divorces. According to the Census Bureau, the average child...
Lilith, you should do debate reviews like the Jerry Lawler. I mean, I kind of am filling in as like a commentator, right? Because they like, okay, if they're setting this up like wrestling, I'm sorry to do the wrestling thing, but I mean, it's so on the nose here, right? They got the Titantron, they've got the scaffolding up there. The debaters are supposed to be like the wrestling match itself, and so yeah, I would be kind of like the commentator commenting on it, you know? I swear to God, she's broken in half.
Child support
It's going to be a slobber knocker.
payment is $441 a month, and only 60%
Right, but how
of
much are
those
they
payments
making?
get paid out.
How much?
Women do not get child custody 90% of the time, as you have asserted before. In fact, 95% of custody cases are mutually agreed upon outside of the court.
I know it's just funny. I'm just going to point this out. Look at the guy, the moderator in the background here. Like his face, like he keeps looking at Anna and his eyes are like bugging. He's like, holy shit. She's really on fire right now. Like, Davis, you better have some response to this.
In fact, 95% of custody cases are mutually agreed upon outside of the courtroom. Women get full custody 40% of the time. Men do get full custody 20% of the time. And 40% of the time, it's shared custody, which I think is the ideal situation, assuming that neither spouse is abusive.
Yeah, slobber. What? It's a slobber knocker.
Out and hold it would be easier to hear you.
Okay. Alimony and medical care and dental are not covered by that, so a lot of times it does go above 50%. Again, you can go through the facts, the data, and the statistics and manipulate them any way that you want.
It's not
But
manipulation.
there are
Those are the
1.6
stats.
million. There are
You manipulate facts, data, and statistics. How do you manipulate a fact? I just want to know. Isn't a fact a fact? You don't manipulate a fact. Now you could say manipulating statistics or massaging data. I understand that. But when you say you can manipulate the fact, it's like if you're manipulating the fact, then it wouldn't be a fact. But at the end of the day, like to say she just quoted more random numbers and is that, well, you can just quote all this data at me. But you know, I'm just going to pretend like there's no fucking data whatsoever. Right. You could misrepresent the facts. But if somebody's telling you something that is a misrepresented fact, then I would say it's no longer a fact. Like, I would say if somebody's telling me a misrepresented fact, I would just call it a lie. Like, I don't think it's very factual at that point. Misrepresented fact, just say lie.
1.6 million men in this country. Men are 9 times more likely to commit suicide after a divorce.
Compared to.
But thank you, Lilith. It's like the concept of a fact, right? I'm going to just hold on to that so that if anybody ever like accuses me of lying, I'm going to be like, excuse me, don't ever say that I'm lying to you, okay? It might be a misrepresented fact, but it's not a lie. Like,
to women, what's the number for women?
Yeah,
It's
an
lower.
educated
Really, what is
wish.
it? Comparative analysis is real difficult for you, isn't it?
Okay.
Oh.
Go ahead, Pearl.
Oh, God. I know that I haven't recorded a lot of debates. I promise I will record some debates and put them on the channel. But this is like this is like the moment. Do you remember when Ethan Klein had Steven Crowder on his show, and then Sam Cedar came in, and Crowder's like, "Oh God, this is a nightmare." I feel like this is that. Like, had Crowder stayed to try to have the debate, this is what would have happened. This cuts me to my soul as a debater. It hurts to watch this, where you're like, you just know that you are being so pounded, and there's nothing that you have no defense. There's nothing left to say. Like, there's no response. This is brutal.
Comparative analysis is real difficult for you, isn't it? Okay.
Oh, and by the way, after this debate, Davis said that she thought it was ridiculous that Anna was allowed to just abuse her on stage and no one stepped in. So she's blaming the moderators for her performance to say that Anna was just allowed to essentially abuse her, as if like having a confrontational, like a heated debate with somebody when you are somebody who's on the political spectrum where she is at, agreeing to do a debate called World War One, and now you're going to cry afterward and say that this was abuse? Are you serious? But, you know, maybe she's just misrepresenting a fact. You know, maybe it's a misrepresented fact that she was abused.
Okay.
Go ahead, Pearl.
What's your next question?
You have asserted that men shouldn't get married, that instead they should
I didn't
shack
say
up.
that.
You did say that. With
did
Trent
not say
Horn, word for word, you said it makes more sense for them to shack up, live with a girlfriend, instead of getting married. Do you think the advice that you give to men is the type of advice that will fulfill their life?
Okay, so she goes from saying, I didn't say that, and then Anna repeats what she said. I don't know if it's verbatim. I haven't gone back to watch that, but she just offers a quote, and then Davis says, right. Did you notice that? She like immediately capitulated to that. What? Listen to this.
You did say that. With Trent Horn, word for word, you said it makes more sense for them to shack up, live with a girlfriend, instead of getting married. Do you think the advice that you give to men is the type of advice that will fulfill their lives? Because I'll tell you one thing. The best part of my life is my husband. I love my husband. He's my rock. He's my foundation. And no, my husband is number one. I love my career, but you know what my career did? When I met my husband, my career was already established. He, on the other hand, was couch surfing. He was in debt and didn't know what he wanted to do with his life. I married him anyway. You want to know why? Because I had the economic freedom to marry for love, not for some Chad to take care of me.
How tall is he?
Oh, he's 6'1", about your height. None, I don't want kids.
Let's not do shouting questions from there, please. Allow these two to debate each other.
Okay, what's your question?
I mean, you don't really have much to answer, so I don't know what else to ask you. Do you think you're helping men by discouraging them from entering fulfilling marriages?
What happens to men if they don't pay child support?
I mean,
what happens? What happens, Anna?
How many men do you think get arrested? I don't know what the number is, but the idea that there's like a huge number of men getting arrested for not doing what they're supposed to do
15%
and take care of their children, it's not a huge issue.
What happens to men when they don't?
Right. So this is so damning for the like, what happens to men that don't pay child support? I'll answer in any debate. You want to just give a direct answer. Oh, they would be arrested and they would be put in jail. That's what happens. The same way that like if there's any other like, you know, court garnishment that you aren't paying, there can be penalties for not paying that. Now, typically we don't put people in jail for financial, you know, like not paying garnishments and stuff like that. They'll just garnish more of your wages typically. But in the case of like child support, like, do we agree or do we not agree that you should pay child support for your children? Right? Because it either is the case, like, let's say the man gets custody and the wife has to pay child support. All right. Should she pay child support? Because all these conservatives and all these manosphere types, they always talk about like being good role models, living properly as a man. If you father children, should you pay child support? If the answer is yes, which I hope so many, you know, I hope y'all agree with that you should support the children that you have, or you know, should not have had children. If your answer is yes, then what ought the penalty be if they don't pay child support? Now, I would say that obviously, like, you could repossess, like the government could take some of their stuff, sell it off. But that's not going to help the child, right? And at the end of the day, I don't think that like men should be put in prison for it either. I'm against prisons altogether, right? I don't think if he's in prison, how is he going to make money to pay the garnishment? Instead, you can levy other, you know, fees and penalties against them. And I'm sure we could talk about other solutions for this. But in the current state of affairs in America, they go to prison. They go to jail. That's what happens. Now, the question is, ought they pay for their children? Do you think that men that father children have a duty or responsibility to pay for those children? Yeah, it takes so long to activate. Yeah.
Really, only 60% of child support payments get paid out.
You gotta allow her to interrogate you, not them. You gotta stop yelling questions at her.
You can minimize men's problems all you want, but I don't think you understand how privileged of a position you're in.
In what way? How am I?
Okay, so now it's just, I don't think you understand how much privilege you have. Hey, I need all you conservatives that get, you know, triggered at the word privilege. I mean, Now you have her. She's saying, as a white person, you have so much privilege. As a white woman, you have so much privilege, right? Just remember that for your when you get all mad and ragey at the idea of privilege. She's saying now, as a defense for men's rights, that we're going to start invoking privilege, right? I thought privilege was something that y'all didn't agree existed. That's feminism. Because if we're going to start talking privilege and who has and who doesn't have privilege, now you're coming over to our side. You're going to be ceding this argument to feminism, because privilege is absolutely something that we can talk about in this conversation. And it is damn sure not going to fall in favor of men. But go on, Davis.
My privileged. Men are the ones that are on the hook for child support. Men are the ones that are on the hook for alimony. It's easy for you to...
If they end up with a shared custody, unless they have full custody, then they're not paying child support. They're just supporting their damn kid. Whoever the other parent would be paying child support. It's not an all or nothing thing.
To tell men to just take the risk when if you're not in that position.
So are you asserting that men shouldn't pay child support following a divorce? Do you believe that women should be financially responsible 100% after
feminists
divorce?
Want it to be equal. So I say be equal. If you guys want equality, 50-50 custody, no child support, no alimony, no special privileges.
Alimony is paid out in 10%
it doesn't
of
matter
divorces.
If you're part of
it
the
does
10%.
matter. It does matter because you make it seem like it's a widespread issue when it's only 10%.
The doctrine is a sexist
law
against
it's
men.
bad unless they do
How
it.
is it sexist if a woman decided to forego a career, decided to be a stay-at-home mother, and the marriage doesn't work out, she has no job, she has no income, so you think it's unfair to get support from her ex-husband so she can raise the kids?
60% of kids under 5 have daycare. Daycare is an option now. You want it to be men.
Do you know how much daycare costs?
You want it to be men. Here,
do you know how much daycare costs? Do you think it's free?
Of course. So, there's daycare. You could go to, you could go and work a job. You want to be equal. I'm sorry. So now is Davis going to support the Zohran Mamdani position that like daycare and childcare ought be free? That we should just offer that for free so that women could go and work? All right. Are conservatives going to support that socialist position now? Because and are men going to support that? Do you want your stay-at-home mom to be able to just drop the kids off at free daycare and go actually work and earn an income? So Hannah, I guarantee you, she does not know how much daycare costs. I almost feel like this is a photo we're watching. This is a podium leaning against a podium at this point. I don't know if there's even like 3 brain cells rattling around up there from the stuff that she's saying. I just don't understand. Like, okay, I do understand. She's a grifter. Let's be honest. She's getting paid to say things that men like. And it's because she's a woman that they can say, oh, look, we're not sexist. We don't hate women because a woman is saying it. Like, she's just being used by them and she's fine with it because she's getting paid for it.
Let her answer.
A lot of things are expensive, Anna. I mean, it's men.
Oh, that's the answer? How much does daycare cost? The answer is a lot of things are expensive. Yeah, Mamdani is absolutely based, Lilith.
That's not an answer.
Women have 85% of consumer spending. Women spend money all the time. You spend money on hair dye, you spend money on Botox, you spend money.
You should think about it. I sure am.
You spend money all of the time.
Yep.
So you want it to be men, here it is. You're equal. Pay for daycare.
Equality means that when you have a child or children, you're both responsible. So the idea that the woman should take 100% of the costs on herself without any help from her husband or ex-husband is ridiculous. How is that fair?
Well, how is it fair that he doesn't get 50-50 custody?
Well, first of all, why are you asserting that they don't?
It's 50% his DNA. Why can't he have 50% custody? Where
there
has
was a study.
Let
me answer your question, even though I should be interrogating you. I'll answer your question. Massive study out of Massachusetts that looked at 24,000 divorces. In those 25 divorces, they found that in only 8% of cases did men ask for custody. 8%.
Right, because the average American can't afford divorce fees, Anna.
But women can afford to raise the children by themselves
divorce.
without support from the ex-husband. How does that make sense?
I'm sorry so she's saying that this should be like equal and men should get 50% of the custody. And then she was saying that, women that get the children should just step up and pay for daycare. Oh, there's hair dye. Lots of things in society are expensive. That's what she said. She said, like, just eat the cost. Lots of things are expensive. Now she's having to eat her own words because now she's saying that, well, men can't afford divorce fees. So women can afford to pay for everything on their own, 100% cost of childcare, along with everything else. But then poor men can't afford divorce, the cost of divorce. I'm sorry, either things are very expensive or they're not. Either it is fair to say you just have to pay for all of this on your own, or it's not. You cannot say that you can all afford to buy things on your own, but at the same time, you can't afford to get divorced.
Did you say? I didn't hear you. We were talking.
You're complaining about the costs while simultaneously arguing that a woman should not get child support in order to raise the children that the former couple had together.
Are you guys equal or not? You want to
Yes,
be equal.
equality means that you're both responsible for raising the children, and that includes the
so
costs
you should
of
have
raising
equality,
the children.
but not at the expense of men. 50-50 custody, 50-50, no child support, no alimony. That's equality. You don't want
Alimony
equality.
makes sense if
You
the
want-
woman was
you
a
want-
stay-at-home mother and doesn't have a source of income. How else would she take care of the kids following a divorce?
By getting a job just like the men.
So you're saying that a woman who doesn't have recent job history is just going to willy-nilly enter the job force, or workforce, I should say, and easily get hired. Do you guys care about this? So do you care about the children or not? Because you're making this about like the
What are you, a
poor
woman? That's
husband, the
emotional.
poor ex-husband who doesn't.
Yeah, you asked about how our relationship is with our dad. The thing is, like, I don't want to necessarily engage in like armchair psychology. I don't know that. I'm not sure how that would impact one way or the other. I think like I don't know. She's a grifter, right? We see men do this all the time, like Shapiro, conservatives in general. Like a lot of these people are just grifters, right? Andrew Tate, Donald Trump with his Trump coin and stuff. It's all grifting all the way down. I don't think it takes like I don't think there needs to be anything. And I'm only sensitive to that because people try and like psychoanalyze me all the time, being trans and everything. This level of arrogance fueled by anger. Yeah, I mean she's very arrogant, but if you look at the way that she like laughs and stuff like that, she's very dismissive. She seems like she's not seriously concerned about these issues. Like when Anna brings up a serious concern about it, she doesn't take an approach like I was doing earlier and be like, look, there are problems here, and there might be serious questions about how we go about this, like talking about prisons or something. But I am I am more serious about this than Davis is, and Davis is on a stage in front of how many people, right? And this is going to be blasted. Sorry, give me a second. This is going to be blasted like throughout the internet. She's on stage with Anna Kasparian. This is going to be seen hundreds of thousands of times. And she's just snickering about it because she thinks that saying, oh, well, they should be equal to men. And she thinks that scores points for her. Yeah, she is acting very much like a grifter. Like I would say she's not having human empathy in the subject. You do kind of get a point there. Like she's acting like a pod person. You know what I mean? Like if I saw somebody like this and they were advocating against their own interests like this, I'd be like, she looks like pod people.
Who doesn't want to pay the child support, doesn't want, to take on any of the responsibilities of having children in the first place. Why is it that you seem to have a problem with men carrying out their responsibilities? But when it comes to
men are dying to care about their responsibilities. Men
Really?
are fighting to be a part of their kids' lives.
What's the empirical data on that?
I don't need data. How many people in here have had a family or a friend fight for their kid and not
you
be able
don't
to
need
get it?
data.
The reason that this happens, Anna, is because lawyers tell them not to fight because
whenever you say how many men here, all right, first of all, ad populum fallacy, straight up. All right, if enough people here say it's true, then it must be true. The other thing that I want to highlight for y'all, who comes to a debate like this, right? There's going to be people that showed up supporting Anna and wanting to see Anna. Then the other people that are showing up there are going to be these like angry men's rights activist types. And a lot of these people have like a laundry list of grievances. So you're literally like cherry picking a crowd full of men's rights activists. But how many of you have been wronged by the system? Like, duh, you're going to get like a pop for that. This is just so low effort and ad populum fallacy. So if you're going to pull some conclusion from that, the conclusion is just not going to follow because it's fallacious reasoning to start with.
It's so expensive and they won't win.
What is
They
that
won't
based on?
win.
You have to provide, look, Pearl, I am open to be convinced, but I need more than anecdotes. I need more than vibes and feelings. Because we're talking about something serious here.
She's
We're
like
talking
reading
about raising
the
children.
stars,
We're talking about
reading
the shared
crystals.
responsibility of raising children. That, of course, includes the
90%
cost.
of disputed custody goes to women. That's not equal.
90%, that's a totally made up statistic. Where are you citing that from?
All right, let's take a break there because our time actually ran up.
Womp,
Those opening
womp.
interrogations are over. Let's take a moment here.
Womp,
I'll go grab a sip of water. All right. The next step is going to be 30 minutes.
All right, I'm sorry, y'all. I want to pause this real quick. I can't help it. I have to take a bathroom break. I've been doing this for a few hours. I'll be back in just a minute. I hope that y'all will stick around. I'll put you back on the loading screen. I'll be back in just a minute, and we'll finish this out. I don't know if we'll get through the whole thing, but we'll definitely listen to some more of it because this is just brutal. All right, we are back. Sorry about that. You know, it happens to the best of us. You know, we're all human, except for pod people, right? All right, let's get back to it.
We're going to open it up. Again, open debate. I remind you guys, I know everyone's passionate about this. I get that. But we can't have multiple people debating at the same time, right? We've got one debater here. We got one debater here. Let's keep it here. All right? Let's put 30 minutes on the clock. And let's begin the open debate. Pearl, I'll let you pick up here. Go ahead.
What happens to men when they don't pay child support?
There are consequences for it, especially when
Which
there's a
are?
court order for them to
Which
carry
are?
out their responsibility and pay child support
Oh, yeah.
so that child can be raised.
You're right,
happens-
Maureen.
Do you think there should
Some
be
of the
legal
pauses
responsibilities
are
or legal
pretty
consequences if they
substantial.
fail
This
to
is at,
carry
like,
out a court order to,
1.5
take care of their
playback
kids?
speed.
I've interviewed men that have paid millions of dollars in
Don't care
child
about your
support
interviews.
hearing-
Anecdotal evidence doesn't matter. What I need is actual statistic, empirical evidence.
Thank you.
They
No
should pay
one
their child
cares
support.
about anecdotes.
$441
What happens-
is the average child support payment. $441 a month.
Yeah, that's for someone that makes $24,000 a year.
You just told me a woman can just go to work and take care of the kids totally by herself.
How does a guy live when he's paying $500 a month on $24,000 a year?
You think $500 a month is too much in child support? Do you know how much it costs to raise a child? Do you know
Look-
how much childcare costs, for instance? I mean, that mother has to go to work, right? Where's the kid going to stay while that mother is working? How is she going to pay for the
What happens to men when they don't
daycare?
pay child support?
Sorry, say that again.
What happens to men when they don't pay child support?
There are legal repercussions for not
What-
carrying out a court
Okay.
mandate
Do you think
to
that,
do something.
Do you think that fraud should be illegal?
Absolutely.
Okay. So why is it not illegal for women to fraud men on paternity? If a man does not find out he's the father over the age of 2, he is on the hook for child support for 18 years.
I don't
Why-
know
where
what the
have you
law
been on
is
this
when it
issue?
comes to
A
that.
third-
But it's
a-
wrong. If you're lying about paternity, that is wrong, and there should be legal consequences
Why
for
haven't
that.
Right, because you'd have to establish that they know that they are lying. That's the problem. Is like whenever you're like, oh, it's paternal fraud. You would have to show that the pregnant person was aware that this is not this person's child. And if the person like hooked up with them within the time frame, and there is like reasonable belief that they have that this is the father, how, like, you're not going to be able to prove that unless like the person specifically says that they knew that this was a lie the entire time and they've been deceiving them purposely. That's the only way that you're going to get there. And fraud is already illegal. So it's like, whenever she asks the question of like, oh, should fraud be illegal? It already is. The question isn't, should it be illegal? The question is it legal? No, it's not.
Feminists fought.
It's that simple.
Then why aren't feminists fighting for it, Anna?
Because feminists fight for women, obviously.
Right. That's my point.
Yeah.
At the expense of men. You guys want to believe women at the expense of men. Why isn't Amber Heard in jail? Because of the Me Too movement. You guys push believing all rape victims, and now we have rape.
Amber
Literally, right back up to the Amber Heard thing. Like, I'm telling these right-wing conservative manosphere people, they are so brain rotted. Like, they cannot let go of Amber Heard. And you could just ask the same question about Johnny Depp. Like, why isn't Johnny Depp in jail? Right? If you go back and watch that that entire trial, like, clearly both of those people were being abusive to each other. I don't think it's like, it's obviously not a good thing, but it's absurd to say that, well, one of them should have been put in jail and the other one shouldn't, when we have like evidence that both of them were being abusive. Yeah, the guy in the back does look like a bobblehead, doesn't he? Because it's like, it almost looks like he doesn't even have like a neck or something. We'll go back just a second.
Because of the Me Too movement. You guys push believing all rape victims, and now we have rape.
Amber Heard had to pay out a massive settlement.
Yeah, but why isn't she in jail?
You want her in jail?
Yes.
Well,
he ruined
the
his
penalties
life.
for defamation are what the court's decision is, right? You want people to go to prison for defamation?
He had to go to 2 different countries to clear his name. Why isn't she in jail? He lost millions of dollars.
To be clear, you think the penalty for defamation is prison time?
I think the penalty for a false accusation is that the woman should get the same time that he would have gotten if he was found guilty.
Men don't go to prison for defamation.
What?
And see, this is the...
Okay. All right. You hear that clapping? All the little or seals in the audience, those are the motherfuckers that don't understand free speech at all, okay? You can say what you can lie, you can say awful things to people, you can go and spread rumors about people. Now, if you go and you spread, if it's defamatory, there are court resolutions to deal with that. But prison time is not one of them. That's absolutely absurd. And it said, well, you should get the same prison time as if the other person was found guilty. Like, are you serious? So you would say then, if we just apply like parity of reason, then we would say like, oh, well, attempted murder should carry the exact same penalty as actual murder, even though you did not murder the person. That's like where you would be at with this, like, with this ridiculous, like, legal interpretation, where you would say, like, attempted crimes carry the same penalty as carrying out the crime. Because you're saying that, like, oh, well, the penalty should be if you were successful. I think the legal repercussions for that are obviously terrible, and it would curtail so much speech. This is absolutely ridiculous. But once again, conservatives proving that when it comes to any principles, they will surrender all of it as long as it benefits them or a group that they think it will benefit, no matter what the repercussions are.
The problem with feminists, you want all these freedoms, but you want to actually be equal.
I do want equality.
No, if you wanted to be equal, you would fight for 50-50 child support, no alimony.
I'm sorry. I never heard anywhere in here where Anna said that she was against 50-50, like, child custody. That she never said that. Davis has said this over and over again, and I feel like she's like shadow boxing, or she's so concussed in this debate at this point, she doesn't even know where she's at. Like, literally, Anna never said that. And it's also not a feminist position that parents shouldn't have 50-50 custody. We would only say that, like, obviously a parent that was being abusive to the kid or is a danger to the family, obviously they shouldn't have 50-50 custody. But that's not a feminist position that, well, men can't have 50-50 custody. Like, if you're in a marriage and things just don't work out and y'all are just not happy together, so you're going to go your separate ways. And it's like, well, as Anna said, in whatever it is, like 20 or 40% of cases, I'd have to go look up the stat, that there's shared custody. It's like majority of the cases, there is shared custody. It's not anti-feminist to have shared custody of a child. I don't know why she keeps saying this.
No alimony.
Yeah, well, she's doing her best to straw man so she could possibly win something. She can't win. Yeah, she can't win against Anna on any of this stuff. And yeah, she's basically. But here's the thing: if Anna might be like intelligently doing this, right? By not responding to her when she says this, you let her keep saying that, and it's like a nonsense talking point, so that like people like the audience, like we watch this and we're like, why does she keep saying that? But then like later on, if it becomes focused in the debate, Anna can just easily annihilate it quickly and be like, oh, you wasted all this debate time talking about this, which just proves how incompetent you are, like, and what knowledge you lack of the subject. You have no mastery of the subject whatsoever. You're clearly just making stuff up. Yeah, link to that and act like the issue in question. She thinks that it scores a point.
So again, if a woman decided to forego working, decided to stay home to raise the children, and the marriage doesn't work out, she's got no income whatsoever, she doesn't deserve any
alimony. Women aren't even doing that. Number one, that's not even women are not staying home with the kids. And number two, you have daycare.
A lot of women do these days,
you
actually.
You have
daycare. The traditional women who want to stay home, they want to be traditional wives, and you trash them all the time, which I don't understand.
If
it seems like women can't do anything right when it comes to you, right? They're stay-at-home moms, they're traditional,
I understand that you can personally attack me.
I'm not personally attacking you.
Okay.
These are things that you have said on the record multiple times.
But if you cared about equality, you would care about false accusations.
I do care about false accusations.
No, you don't.
You don't know me. You don't know what I care about.
Look, all right. Let's talk about rights that men do not have. Men do not have the right to be enlisted in selective service. You know, we have 125K men who were drafted and buried overseas. Think about that over a second. You talk about the oppressions of the past, but how many men died in World War I and World War II?
Wait, I'm sorry. She's monologuing when she's supposed to be doing an interrogation? Like, this is supposed to be a back and forth, and she's literally reading off of her paper for a monologue. Oh yeah, shaming women for not being child wife enough, but I'm not that familiar with the rest of Davis's things. But if what Anna is saying is accurate, she would have a problem with women being stay-at-home moms, as if that's like taking advantage of men or something like that. So like she imagines that women should both go to work full-time and also, you know, take care of the household, take care of the kids, be like a traditional wife. Like, she has impossible standards for women to maintain.
And had no choice. And yet Anna complains about oppression. Men do not have the right to face their accuser in court when they have a false allegation and for personal protection orders that strips constitutional rights away from the man. Women go before a judge and say they don't feel safe, and more than likely a PP order will be issued. The man was not in court, had no say, has no defense, and does not get to face his accuser. That is done en masse, and many servicemen and first responders lose their careers over this because it strips a man's Second Amendment rights away based on no evidence. Men do not have the right to raise their children. Divorce is no fault, but when it
just continuously monologuing and prattling on and on. And like Anna is very good right here. Like, where's the evidence? Because it's like, oh, well, he's not able to face his accuser. I just want to say for a second, does she really think that what makes or breaks an investigation is if like you are actually able to stand there and face to face with your accuser? Like, there's going to be evidence that the case is based on besides just, well, she said this happened. Right? There's going to be actual evidence, especially when you're talking about service members, firemen, and those sorts of things. When these accusations are made, there is evidence that goes along with it. And he'd have a lawyer that could go and argue the evidence, or depending on the nature of the evidence, he might go ahead and accept a plea. Because he knows that if this ends up going before a judge, he's going to get cooked. It's possible, but since we're just talking about hypothetical cases, we're not citing specific examples, we're just making stuff up on the fly, then hypothetically that could be the case too. Couldn't it be, hold on, isn't it possible that hypothetically every single man that's been accused of this actually is guilty? Hypothetically, that's possible. And if I'm allowed to just not cite any data, and I'm not allowed to point to any, I don't have to point to sources, I can just make stuff up, then couldn't I just say, well, this is logically possible. Maybe like all these women, something did happen to them. Maybe every woman in the Me Too movement, maybe it's all 100% accurate, right? That's logically possible. There's a reason why we shouldn't base whether we are convinced of something based on just vibes. Like, oh yeah, this person seems victimized or something like that. And like maybe as their friend or like a family member, you know, you want to offer them comfort and you'll be okay, like something definitely happened to them. And you might be convinced of that. And that's fine. They definitely deserve support. They deserve to be heard out. But at the end of the day, there's evidence that goes along with these types of accusations. It's not just somebody making something up. And that's the way that Davis is trying to frame this. And this is what the manosphere has a problem with. That, well, hypothetically, someone could just make this up and entrap you. And it's like, I mean, if we're allowed to just throw out hypotheticals, then hypothetically, he did the crime. Unless we actually point to specific cases, then there's nothing to go off of here. This is yet again a nothing burger.
When it comes to child custody, it's always the man's fault. He loses his children to the system. 96 hours a month the father does not make. Men have longer prison sentences. Women get a third of the time for the same crime. Where are the feminists fighting for equality on that issue? There has been rampant discrimination against better qualified men hiring across multiple industries.
Where's
men
the
pay
question?
more child support, and child support orders are not enforced at the same rates between men and women. Women are more likely
women pay
not
child
to
support.
pay
Fascinating.
and are prosecuted for non-payment at lower rates. Men cannot opt out of parenthood. Men have very few domestic violence shelters and are not taken seriously when they're domestic violence victims.
I agree on that. I do
White
agree
men
on
in
that.
particular.
This is literally, oh God, this is so embarrassing. This is literally just a like men's rights like manifesto at this point. Like, where's the date? This is why it's hard to take this serious, because there are issues that face men that should be addressed. There are things that are unfair for men. The battered shelter is a good example of this. But at the end of the day, if we're going to take this stuff serious, we would need to know, like, okay, well, statistically, like, how many shelters are there? Like, what are the social support structures for men? And actual cite the institutions doing this. Because when you're just rattling on and on and on about this, this literally just feels like you're giving a manifesto or like what your personal beliefs are. This does not read like anything that like we could take action on, because you're just saying these are issues that they face. Okay, what are the remedies? What do they want to do about this? Where are you getting the data? We got nothing.
Are discriminated against when it comes to hiring and educational attainment.
True.
The Duluth model is a model that law enforcement, courts, and counselors use automatically that assumes men are the aggressor. The tender years doctrine is a guideline in divorce used to justify removing the father from the child's life. The only institutional sexism that exists is institutional sexism that discriminates against men in favor of women. Furthermore, U.S. courts do not require
It's just a
receipts to
bunch of
show how that
talking
money
points.
is spent by the custodial parent, unless there's overwhelming evidence of starvation, malnutrition, or severe child abuse. There are
Hold
numerous
on,
reports
pause.
of custodial
You want the
parents
government
spending
to
the
check
money on
receipts and
luxury.
see, like,
Let's let her respond to some of that.
hold on, let's understand something. You want government to be so big that you literally have the government looking at receipts to see what a mother is spending the money on? That's insane.
I want no child support and no alimony 50-50.
Yeah, because you're crazy and you don't live in reality.
I want equality. I'm more of a feminist than you, Anna. Because I say if you want to vote, be in selective service. Be on the front lines just like the men are.
Who do you think gives birth to and raises those soldiers?
What does that have to do with anything?
Because you assert that women shouldn't be allowed to vote because they're not all in mandatory military service.
I say be equal. You want to vote, do what the men do. Men are fined
Should women be included in combat?
Men
Should women
are
be
fin-
included in combat?
Yes.
Okay.
Do what the men
fair,
do.
Fair.
Do what the men do.
Yeah, fair. Agreed. Next. Next? Nothing? Okay. I want to know what your ideal woman is, because if you are a traditional conservative woman who's married, staying at home, raising kids, you trash them.
There's no such thing as a traditional woman. They cannot be traditional in 2025 because women will always have the leverage.
What does that mean? What does it mean that women
Because
will always have the leverage?
Women have child support to fall back on. Women have alimony. So automatically.
What? So women should have like nothing to fall back on? This is like, she's like giving the game away at this point. Because remember when we talked before about like fairness, justice, etc., and we're talking about treating like cases alike, right? She spent all that time talking about equality, equality, equality. Now she's saying that she doesn't want women to have anything to fall back on, even if they're like a trad wife or something like that. But does she want to apply that standard to men? Is she want to say like, we need to make sure that men have nothing they can fall back on if like they end up getting divorced? Like, this just sounds like hell world. Like, if you're unhappy with a partner, you should be able to leave that relationship. If you and your partner talk and say like, hey, we are just not very happy together, things aren't working out, y'all should be able to dissolve that relationship and move on from each other. she's literally framing like marriage and stuff. Like I have been married for almost a decade at this point. I absolutely love my wife. They are like absolutely the most wonderful thing about my life. I love my partners very much. At the end of the day, if things weren't working out between any of us, we could go our separate ways. I don't think that relationships should be framed. This is such a weird way to say, all right. Her complaint is that men end up being trapped. Like, oh, there's women have leverage over men. But now she's implying that the woman should be trapped in this relationship with this man. She is saying that women should not be allowed to have a fallback plan or a way to kind of get out of this. Like, this is like almost this is a textbook example of a double standard all the way down.
10% of divorces end with alimony settlements. 10%.
And they go.
You just ignore the stats.
They
You
go
just
from
move
men
on.
to women. They go from men to women. Billions of dollars every year.
I thought you said earlier that women are paying alimony.
Billions of dollars of wealth every year is transferred from men to women.
Mm-hmm. Based on what? Where are you getting that information from? You're just making it up?
Look, we have a works cited. We can get it to you at the end. You didn't want to submit. Where are your sources? You didn't want to submit them ahead of time. You did.
The Census Bureau, Bureau of Labor Statistics. I cited everything I mentioned. Pull it up. Pearl, the main thing I want people to understand, okay? Pearl's gonna trash women no matter what. That's fine.
I'm not trashing
But
them.
my biggest gripe with you is you're discouraging people from entering marriages.
I don't tell men what to do. Sell me on.
You
okay,
advise men to avoid marriage.
Sell me on marriage. What do men get out of marriage?
That's sad. It's sad that people think that. It really is. You get a partner, you get a teammate, you get to build a life together, and it's beautiful.
Literally, and you hear the people like laughing. Okay, I don't understand this. Like, all right, I've already stated that not only am I married, I have other partners. I'm polyamorous. I'm in a polycule. I'm going to make an appeal to just men in general. Okay, so I'm going to put all of my stuff aside. No trans issues. No nothing. Men. Why do you find this type of a lifestyle attractive? You are being told that being like a lone wolf, being single, being on your own is going to be fulfilling for you. And not only do I find that to be like absurd, we are social creatures. And eventually we are all going to like age up. The idea that you are going to be independent and on your own for your entire life is non-existent. You might have medical problems. You might get injured. You might want someone to just travel with you for safety reasons. You might want to have like someone to play games with, like a companion. Your relationship, especially your like intimate relationships, and we all need intimacy as like social primates. These are going to be like some of the most meaningful experiences that you have in your life. And you are being lied to and deceived that being on your own, not having partners, is somehow going to make you happy in the long run. If you believe this advice while you were younger, as you start aging up, it's going to be harder for you to find people. I mean, we live in a monogamous society. It will be harder for you to find people that are still available to you in the like higher age brackets. And you're going to have missed all these years where y'all could have been like making memories together. Like, it makes me very sad that there's a man that's laughing in the audience at the idea that like that having a partner with you, building a life together, and saying like all Anna said is it's a beautiful to build a life together. Now, me and Anna totally disagree on like what a beautiful life looks like. But what we agree on is like life is better having companionship, not only having like close friends. I would desire to have my partners. Now, Anna is probably in a monogamous structure, and that's fine if that's what she wants. And if you are absolutely set on being single, and you don't want to be with anyone else, that's your prerogative. But I feel like selling the average person on that and telling the average person that they're better off alone, while simultaneously saying that men have a higher suicide rate and there's a loneliness epidemic among men, and they are discouraged from having close male companionship. So like the conservatives will say like men expressing their feelings are weak. They will laugh at Jordan Peterson for crying and say like, well, he's a weak man because he cried. And then they'll also say things like men should not touch each other and be physically affectionate. Like it's gay if they, if they touch each other, whatever. First of all, I'm going to say it's fine to be gay. I think we all like some femboys, right? Like, it's fine to like 100%. If you are gay, then, be gay, be happy. But I also find it sad that like men in platonic relationships, like, let's just say you have a good, like, another guy friend of yours. Like, I don't think you should be shamed for having physical intimacy with them. Like, you should be able to hug them. It's not just like a high five type of thing. Like, y'all should be able to find companionship together and not be ridiculed for having that companionship. But I'm coming from a place of empathy and wanting you to have a better life. Now, you might say like, well, Zoe, why do you care about this? Like, you're a trans woman at the end of the day. Like, why do you give a crap about like men's rights or whatever? Because it's just statistically true that men end up committing more violent crime in this country, that men end up being more mass shooters. It's just factual. And I feel like a lot of the men that end up in these types of situations, like that where their life has gotten to this point, a lot of it is because, they have been mistreated, that not only did the system fail them, but the people that were around them weren't watching out for them either. Like, if my close friends started exhibiting worrying behavior, I would talk with them, or I would suggest that, they get therapy, that they get some help. I'm not going to just let my friends slip away into oblivion. And I find that the manosphere fails men. So like I've said so many times that men deserve better than the manosphere. And I meme and I joke on it because it is a farcical belief system that they are adopting. It is politically radical. It's not only like anti-woman, it is anti-human. The manosphere is an anti-man position. But a lot of these guys that are very disgruntled, like you hear them in the audience, these guys are not having intimate contact with each other. They're not going to be like very close friends that are concerned for each other's well-being. They're there just to air their grievances on average. Liz said men's rights are also human rights. Just a lot of men have been brought into this Marlboro man mentality is not only, no, 100%. Yeah, and Kyle says, if you had the power to intervene and didn't, you chose the outcome. Well, you would have helped contribute to that. And I'll say, like, when I was growing up, that the best influence on me as a child was my dad. I had a great relationship with my dad. It's why I always roll my eyes whenever, I am being passionate about something or I'm getting into politics. Then there would be somebody that says, like, what was your relationship with your dad? I was like, you know what? Fucking awesome. My dad was a great man and I loved him a lot. And it's, I've met a lot of men throughout my life that were fantastic people. They were mentors, they were protectors, they helped provide. Like, men do sacrifice a lot. So do women and non-binary people. I want to focus on men real quick and just say that, like, we can acknowledge that there are plenty of good men out there. And it sucks that they get radicalized by these things. There's the whole alt-right pipeline, if they're even still calling it that these days, to push men into a disgruntled space where they are surrounded by people that are angry and hateful people that want to blame that, or at least that try to like fill them with the notions that all of their life's problems are caused by other groups of people outside of like white men, when in actuality, look at the billionaires of this country. right? That's where your problems are coming from. Look at the people that control this capitalist structure. Look at these mega corporations that don't care that they're poisoning your air and poisoning your water, that are trying to turn you into someone who can only break your back for minimal wages at jobs that don't offer you benefits, that don't offer you retirement, where you can't actually take a vacation. You want to say, why is my life miserable? Even if you are single and you try and hold on to all of your money by yourself, why does life suck? It's not women. It's not us. Look up. It's the corporations. It's your boss's boss. I don't understand how you can have like a line worker at like a Ford factory, or you can have a welder or a soldier or any of these men that throughout their lives, their knees are getting bad as they age. They're breaking their back with labor, and they don't realize that they are going to need a social safety net for their failing health as they get older. They don't support socialism. When I see veterans out here protesting and they're in wheelchairs or hobbling around. I was a truck driver for almost a decade. I saw plenty of men hobbling through the parking lots and stuff because that heavy machinery caused them to have back and leg problems. I'm sorry to get on a soapbox about this, but men face serious issues. There is serious injustice that's being done to them, and it's being done via capitalism, via exploitation of their bodies and labor. And it's not women that's doing it. It's the system that's crushing all of us. So don't fall for this type of garbage that Davis is going to sell you, because you're not going to be happy. Your body's still going to get broken by this system. Your boss is still going to take advantage of you. They're still not going to give you a restitution for the things that have been done to you. You're still not going to have a retirement if they have their way. And the people in the manosphere, they're all bloodsuckers at the top. All these Andrew Tates, they're all just siphoning money off of you with their self-help guru bullshit. It's fake. They are laundering you a false reputation that they have. You are never going to be like them because you don't have millions of dollars. I appreciate that, Hannah. It's a good soapbox because their anger is being right. But the thing is, if I talk about issues affecting white men, I worry that that's going to attract the type that believe in things like the Great Replacement, right? That is literally manipulating their anger in the wrong direction. That is a distraction. It's a smokescreen so that they don't actually ever look up. They're saying, oh, look over here, look at that, but don't look up. You might actually realize what's really going on in society and where the real problems are coming from. But I'll play the video.
I feel like misery loves company in this situation. And how would you know what you get out of marriage if you haven't experienced marriage in the first place? I'm not saying that as a personal attack. I really hope that Pearl meets the love of her life and gets married. It's not about that. But you trash it without really understanding what the benefits are.
Why do we have phrases like it's cheaper to keep her?
Pearl,
answer the
Just
question.
an empty
divorce
slogan.
is expensive. And by the way, on purpose, to discourage people from getting divorced in the first place.
Why do we have phrases like happy wife, happy life?
Because it's true. Same with happy husband, happy life. I don't want to come home to an angry husband.
Right.
But that's not a phrase.
Do you have any
is
other
it?
But that's not a phrase, is it? Like, this is almost like fortune cookie type thing. Like, obviously, like if you have a partner that is angry when you're coming home to them, obviously your life is not, there might be like less happiness because there's more anger. That's like a literally saying nothing. That is trivially true. If your partner is happy, you're more than likely to be happy. If your partner is angry, you're more than likely going to, have to interact with somebody who is not happy.
Catchphrase or slogan you want to throw at me?
What do men get out of marriage?
They get a partner.
That gains 25 pounds in the first 5 years.
Men get pretty fat too. I don't know if you've done a comparative analysis on that. They actually end up gaining more weight than their wives do. And who cares?
Men?
I mean, have a conversation with your partner. Encourage her.
How
Be
can
an adult.
How can men and women be equal?
Especially if she's giving you
How can men and
children.
women be equal when one is expected to die for the other?
I don't
What?
expect anyone to die for anyone else. I don't know what that even comes
Yeah, but
from.
men are willing to die for you every day. The men in the police force, the men in the military.
What about the women in the police force?
They're not. They're 10%, and they cause so,
So
many
what?
problems.
Who cares what percentage women make up of the police force?
Yeah,
They're in
but
the police force.
they
My
can't-
sister-in-law's a cop, actually.
They can't do the same jobs. There's videos on the
You
internet
should see my
everywhere of
sister-in-law.
women getting their guns taken because they're not strong enough.
Are you just making things up?
As
Bro,
if
what are
no,
you doing?
uh,
Like, seriously.
Literally as if no man has ever been disarmed on the job. As if like, you know, that's never happened to any cop woman. There's like tons of videos of like men tussling with other like men cops, and they end up like falling on the ground and they end up like shooting one of the officers. There's also tons of those videos too.
Next question.
Oh yeah, this debate was wild. All right. Because we're gonna this is at 1.5, let's listen to how long this pause actually was.
Next question.
This is just painful. There's 16 minutes left.
Do you realize how good you have it in this country?
Absolutely. Best country in the world.
And you get to live the life you live at the expense of men.
No, that's not true.
That is true.
Show me how.
Do you know how many men die every year?
Right.
Just to...
When she's snickering. All right. So I said before that I was taking this more serious. And apostate, you missed. I just did a long like men's rights kind of rant a minute ago. To issues actually facing men. I feel like I'm way more serious and passionate about these issues just as a human rights perspective. I said before, she literally can't say it without just like giggling. She just said, do you know how many men die every year? And then started laughing. I mean, I thought suicide was a serious topic that men face. Right? That is a serious issue. Why are we laughing about invoking the suicide of men now? Like literally, just watch this.
Just to... die every year.
Yeah, do you know how many men die every
Ow.
year?
Do you know how many men die every year? Just to...
And now she's laughing.
There are men that die every year to get you crab.
How many women die every year during childbirth?
Not many.
This country has the highest maternal mortality rate of any developed country. So,
All right, I'm going to pick it back up again because this is so slow. But yeah, brutal
a lot of women
shutdown.
do die as a result of pregnancy and childbirth, yes. This is painful, man. Do
She has no response? Look,
you have any other questions for me?
you know you can just walk off the debate stage, right?
All right.
She
Should I
has...
move on?
Wait. Are you serious? She has no more questions? She has nothing else to say? Look at the timer. There's like 15 minutes left on the timer. And she has nothing else. Like, at that point, just walk off the stage. Just leave. All right? I've seen other debates. Do y'all remember Matt Dillon versus Andrew Wilson? Matt just walked out of there, right? There's nothing like physically stopping to keep her there. But with 15 minutes left, she has nothing else to say, nothing else to debate, nothing else to argue. She has literally nothing. So I don't know. All right. I feel like there's either one or two things are going to happen. And I'm not exaggerating, y'all. This is career ending. This is literally career ending. Like, you just lose so much credibility here. She's either going to have to go back to just being like a person on the street doing interviews and just being like, oh, you know, I'm just a woman on the street asking questions like she used to do. Or she's going to have to go back to making only pre-recorded content. And like, I feel like it's obvious that if she is making pre-recorded content, that she's just regurgitating things that other people have said. because she can't think for herself. Like she's not thinking on her feet. She doesn't know this information. She doesn't remember any of it. And like, I've covered enough politics in general that if I were to just get on a live stream with someone and we're to start debating like Trump's issues, I could just like rattle off like issue after issue that I know that like Trump has done. Now, if I was going to go into a debate like that, I would also make sure that I had the sources pulled up in the background, not because I can't remember the things that Trump has done, but because if somebody says like, hey, where are you getting that from, or who reported that, I can just pull up and say, oh, hey, CNN right here, Fox News right here. Here's, Ken Klippenstein reported it right here, and his source was someone from the FBI or something like that. Right, yeah, like hearing a studio musician live. Exactly. Like, I don't understand how she was this unprepared, and there's 15 minutes left, and she's got nothing. I wanted to watch the full thing because I saw the clips from it. So I just wanted to see front to back what, let's watch the full thing so people are not saying that I'm just cherry picking Davis's worst moments. This is bad, y'all.
All right now. All right. Should I move on? Like, what are we doing now?
Can I ask a couple questions?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, let's just jump in here. So why don't we do this? I'll ask you one and then I'll ask you one and we'll kind of go back and
All right,
forth.
the moderator gets involved.
I kind of half jokingly said at the beginning, like Pearl had mentioned, I think you actually said it here too, that you believe you may be more of a feminist. Do you consider yourself to be a feminist, and how would you define that?
I don't consider myself to be a feminist, mainly because it's a loaded word, and there are certain outcomes from certain waves of feminism that I don't agree with, particularly minimizing the importance of men in society. I do think that there is, especially the third wave of feminism that's done that. I personally really value masculine men, and I don't appreciate feminists speaking on behalf of all women in regard to what women prefer. I think the Me Too movement started off as a legitimate grievance with women who were legitimately abused, and it evolved into something laughable and ridiculous, especially when, someone like Aziz Ansari gets accused of being like some sort of sexual predator when he clearly wasn't. So I just don't like how loaded that word is. What I actually genuinely want is equality among the sexes. I'm not looking for women to have an upper hand over men at all.
So my issue is like already with this. She's like, well, I'm not a feminist. And then he asked her to define feminism. She did not define feminism. She just said, I don't like certain outcomes of certain waves. And, notice she said third wave feminism, which is like pretty telling to pick third wave. I think that's kind of, raises some eyebrows, because it's like, I'm sorry, what were the issues that you had with third wave feminism? And she's like, and then women trying to say to like all other women, how, like, what kind of men they all like. It's like, that's not what feminism is focused on. Feminism, to say like, oh, it's about equality. That's already what feminism is focused on.
But we need to be based in reality, and we need to look at the statistics and figure out what's really going on. If men are getting a raw deal as a result of divorces, then yeah, the laws need to change. And I genuinely thought prior to this debate that they were getting the raw end of the deal. But as I researched this, I realized I was believing in outdated myths. So, yeah.
Pearl, let me ask you this. Do you believe, and obviously you are citing a lot of anecdotal stories, I do think it's fair to point out every anecdotal story is someone's story, right?
And just to be clear on this, if somebody was to say like first, second, third wave feminism, just to give you an idea, since Anna didn't define anything on that, first wave of feminism is essentially like arguing for like women's rights, like the right to vote and that sort of stuff, women's suffrage. That's like first wave feminism. Second wave feminism was addressing like the homophobia and like queer phobia that was in first wave feminism. So you end up having like lesbians becoming part of, feminist issues and equality and stuff like that. Then third wave of feminism is focusing on more of like women's access to like, credit cards, equal outcomes divorce, and those sorts of things. That's how I would kind of say like first, second, third. Like it's easy to think about the issues clustering around those time periods of what they were talking about. So for her to say like she doesn't like some of the outcomes of third wave feminism, like I'm sorry, that is very broad. Like I need you to be more specific. And then she says like the Me Too movement, that it started off as a legitimate grievance. I don't think it started off that way. I think it still is that way. Like, are there some people that were, like wrongly accused or whatever? Well, sure. But that's just because like in any other movement, you're going to have some political opportunists that see this way as like, oh, I'm going to just accuse somebody and like damage their reputation. But that's why I said earlier, like, we can believe that something happened, or that, hey, we're going to take this person's word that there needs to be an investigation. That does not mean that we just believe them by default of whatever they said about like a man or whatever. We would say, okay, well, there needs to be an investigation done into this. And in the case that she's citing, there was an investigation, because she's saying that he was innocent. He was wrongly accused. So there you go.
So they're not fake stories, and they're not meaningless. Obviously, to the people who live those realities, in a lot of cases, they're very painful. Because of your platform, you speak to a lot of those people. How much is that informing where you're coming from in this debate? Is the real stories of people who have been hurt by this stuff?
I mean, I've interviewed 1,000 people. I interviewed a guy who had his kid transitioned, and there was nothing he could do about it. I interviewed another guy, and he spent $300,000.
Oh no, his kid transitioned. There's nothing you could do about it. Once, there you go. Like, no, this is like the type of garbage that you get with the manosphere, once again, where it's like, oh, well, he couldn't do anything about it. I'm sorry. I don't think either parent should be able to stop their kid from transitioning. That's absolutely ridiculous. I've made the case before. I'm not going to go through the entire thing right now, but if we're going to say that cis kids are fine to go through natal puberty, then trans kids should be fine to go through their chosen puberty. Obviously, the parents are involved with it, along with the doctors and stuff like that. But I don't think that either parent should be able to tell that child that they are not allowed to transition. I don't care if you think that makes me a radical. It is fairness when it comes to cis and trans kids. And if you don't think so, then you are being unfair towards trans people. And if we recognize what would it be to be unfair to somebody just because of a demographic they're part of, yeah, you're just being bigoted against them. End of story.
Trying to get his kid back. He actually went overseas to Ukraine during the war, just trying to be in his kid's life. So yeah, it impacts it a lot. Yeah, I've interviewed so many men that want nothing more than to just be a dad and see their kid. They don't even care about the money. They just want to see their children. And if you ask Anna, it doesn't exist. But if you ask any man, like everybody knows somebody that it's happened to. And commentators can, they can try to minimize it. They can talk from their ivory towers and pretend it's not happening. But there's a
ivory towers again, and saying like, oh, well, they can say it doesn't happen. We've already said numerous times that there are going to be some people that, the system ends up like failing. But at the end of the day, like, she wouldn't even answer whether men should have to pay child support. She didn't want to answer that question. She answered it with another question, which was, oh, well, what happens if you don't pay child support? She would never even confirm that men should have to help take care of their kids. Now she's on this narrative of like, oh, men just desperately want to take care of their kids. Okay, so they desperately want to be in their child's life and take care of them, except in the case of paying child support, which is taking care of them. So they want to like be in their lives, spend time with them or whatever, but not take care of them. That's the implication there. As opposed to, she keeps saying like 50-50 child support with like, or child custody with no alimony. And in most cases, that is what happens. That's already most cases. I would be also curious to these cases that she's talking about of like, what are the actual facts surrounding the cases? Like, there was the Canadian case, just talk about like not wanting his kid to transition. There's the Canadian case where the father didn't want his child to transition. The kid was going ahead with the transitioning. And then like there ended up being a court order to a restraining order against the father because he would not stop harassing the mother and the child, including like doxing them and harassing them at school and everything else. And this guy essentially, kept violating restraining orders, and that's why he ended up being put in jail. But conservatives don't want to admit that part. They don't want to acknowledge that, well, the guy that doesn't want his kid to transition will actually go to like harass his child or harass the mother or harass them at school. Like, that's not being included in any of her narratives. If he is not being allowed access to his child, why is that the case? And just like when we're taught Me Too, there should be investigations done and a chance to clear this person's name. On the other side of it, if you're saying, well, they're not allowed to see their kid, we need to have an investigation to find out why that's the case. I can't just take your word that like, oh, he's a total angel and the court just hates him personally.
genocide of millions of men that's going on in this country.
You use
A genocide?
1.6 million men commit
They hear
suicide.
that, yeah.
Has kept
They hear
committed suicide
transition,
since
just think
1970.
surgery.
Similar rates of women also attempt suicide but fail because they usually don't resort to more violent means of ending their own lives.
Right,
So they'll
but
take pills.
Why is that? Why is it that every time we bring up men, you have to bring up women?
Because we're doing a comparative analysis here. You can't just throw out statistics without comparing it to what the rates are among women.
What I'm pointing out is, I just pointed out that by 2050, more men will have committed suicide than all of the world wars combined. And your first response was, well, women commit suicide too.
Because it is a problem that is inflicting both sexes in this country. It is a tragedy and should be taken seriously rather than this weird sex war.
But it's not going to be taken seriously when you pretend it's not going on.
It is going on. Are you kidding me? I mean, how many of our soldiers, our veterans, come back to the United States after multiple deployments, do not get treatment or help with PTSD and other mental issues as a result of being deployed multiple times? Like, that's a real problem. How come you don't talk about
Yeah, how can you not talk about that? Because the right wants to say that mental health issues are like made up, that it's all a like angle by big pharma to like get you hooked on meds, or worse, that it's demons and that if you just pray, it'll go away. That's why they don't talk about that, because they don't actually care about men. They don't actually care about men's mental health. If anything, if you mention like men's mental health, a lot of times they're just going to make fun of you and call you like soy boy or something like that and tell you like that, you know, this is that it's a joke that you're even worried about mental health. Kyle says they go through the regular process of having supervised visitation before they can visit independently. I mean, at the end of the day, if they are not, like, let's say that the court says that they are not allowed to visit their children, okay? Like, let's just grant that that's the case. They're not allowed to see their child. I think that there's probably more going on than, like, the court just simply hates this man. I don't think the court just randomly says, oh, well, you're getting divorced, man can no longer see the kid. Like, you know, no shared custody, no nothing. You're just not allowed to be there. I've also seen cases where like the husband will get, will end up getting the custody. And the reason why is because the mother is like addicted to drugs or something like that, or is like dangerous to the child. Like that happens as well. But, you know, she doesn't talk about that because it's like, well, yeah, if you have to acknowledge that the reason why the husband gets the custody in these cases is because there's something going on with the wife, then you might start asking questions about like, okay, well, if the wife gets custody and the husband is not allowed to be there, what's going on with him?
about that?
Yeah, but
You
they
blame
come,
it on
they
marriage
come
and divorce
home,
instead.
Right, because those soldiers come home to an empty house.
You think that divorce is the reason for most of these suicides?
Men are 9 times more likely to commit suicide after
How many
divorce.
more times likely are women to commit suicide after a divorce?
What about the women?
You don't know the number,
What
right?
about-
Because you
what
didn't even
about-
care to look into it.
What about the women, though? That's always what you go to. And that's kind of what I'm trying to point out is feminists don't care about male issues. They don't. They do not.
This is hilarious considering that like she focuses so much on this like gender war thing. I'm about to wrap this up. Like I know that there's 10 minutes left on it, but I've been streaming for like 3 hours at this point, and we've watched like almost all of this debate so far. I just find it frustrating that she says, well, they come home to an empty house. I'm sorry. Didn't she say earlier that men are better off by themselves? Wouldn't they become like if they lived her ideal worldview, they'd already be coming home to an empty house. There already wouldn't be someone there because they followed her advice.
Not care about equality because whenever
And
you
like,
ask them,
oh, why do you keep bringing up women? That's whataboutism. No, it's not. If the topic of the debate is debating women's and men's issues, that's on the topic of the debate. That's not a whataboutism.
for real equality.
Pearl, my point is that suicide is not just a male issue. It is a huge problem in this country.
It's a human
Women
issue.
who try to end their own lives are less successful because, again, they're less likely to use a gun, for instance, or hang themselves. They'll take pills, it'll fail. It's just a tragic thing all around. But if you actually care about suicide rates, then you would want to know what's causing the suicide rates or the attempts at suicide.
Divorce.
What can we do as a society to help people to prevent that from happening? And you wouldn't make it specifically and solely an issue that inflicts one sex over the other.
Again, I mean, you're just proving my point because we talk about male issues, you keep bringing it back to the women.
I just want you to compare the stats you're spewing right now with something to compare it to.
Okay. Do you think that women should be on the front lines of the military like the men?
If they can pass the physical test necessary to do so, yeah.
Do you think women should be in selective service like the men?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, and they should be on the front lines as infantrymen.
If they are physically capable of doing it, yes.
Okay, so no.
So you want to put people who aren't physically, I mean, obese men wouldn't be put on the front.
All right, this is painful once again. All right, if somebody says if such and such is the case, if they are physically capable of doing this, if is a qualifier right there. So it's already been qualified of if this is the case, then yes. Then whenever Davis comes by and says, oh, so then no. Like, okay, did you hear the conditional on the front? If this is the case, then yes. So then if it's not the case, then no. It's ridiculous. Like, she literally just is selectively hearing this and not even tracking the conversation at this point.
Front lines.
Do you think women should be jailed for false accusations?
Depends on what the false accusations are. If
Just
she's
yes or
falsely
no?
accusing someone of rape, for
Just
instance,
or no?
yes.
Just okay. Thank you. I agree. Do you think that child custody should be 50-50?
As long as the court determines that both parents are capable of being caretakers, yes. In fact, that's the ideal situation.
Okay, so yes.
Yes.
All right, do you believe in alimony?
I believe in alimony in specific cases where the woman decided to forego having a career and working, decided to stay home and raise the kids. In those cases, I believe she deserves alimony, yes.
But that's a privilege.
You're ridiculous. Anyway, next, move
wait,
on.
You said it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous,
that it's a privilege to stay home
especially
with your
coming from a girl who grew up in an affluent situation with incredibly wealthy parents. You don't know anything about struggling economically or financially. So to tell a single mother who decided to stay home and raise her children instead of work that she doesn't deserve a penny to raise her kids after a divorce is the most privileged piece of shit thing to say.
This is the type of nagging.
Oh my God. I feel like those flames in the background are like engulfing Davis right now. That was fucking just beautiful. Like, even if I don't agree with Anna on everything, like, she just like absolutely flamed her. And yeah, acting like housework is not work is absolutely ridiculous. And this was like a point that was brought up to me the other day, was like, just imagine for a second, like, for these men, if they have a stay-at-home wife, just run calculation on like what it would cost them to hire someone to do their laundry. How much would it cost them to hire like a maid service to come and like clean up the house? How much would it cost to pay someone to come in there and do their laundry? How much would it cost to hire a chef to come there and prepare their like dinners and stuff for them? How much would it cost to have daycare to watch the kids? Women are doing, at least in a trad wife situation, those women are doing all of that labor that the husband is not having to shell out money for. In the end, if you run a cost analysis on this, very often it is in fact the case. It is cheaper to have the wife stay home and do all of that labor than it would be if you had her go to work and y'all hired someone to do all of that. That's how expensive childcare is. Often the cost of childcare would be more than her entire salary. Plus, neither one of you are there raising the kid. The kid is being raised by some stranger at a daycare. I'm just saying that, like, to act like that is not labor. Like, all the things that she's doing, like, while she's also giving your child enrichment, playing games with them, like teaching them things, to say like none of that is labor is just absolutely ridiculous. I hate the implication, and it is like absolutely belittling to what, like, if somebody is a trad wife, it is belittling to like what they do. Like, they are doing a lot of work, even if like that's not necessarily a life I would choose for myself.
Nagging that drives men to suicide.
Good, but I'm married and you're not, so next.
Jesus Christ. I get it.
A little harder to debate someone who's not an OnlyFans girl, right?
Yeah, they hate the breakdown. Yeah, the appointment school. Yeah, 100%.
Never. I don't need to. Not that I'm judging.
It's why isn't paternity fraud illegal?
We've been over this already.
It's estimated 6% of men are fathering children that are not theirs.
I don't really believe your stats. Like, where are you getting
the American
that
Blood
stat
Bank
from?
Association. Are you happy?
Okay.
1/3 of
That's
paternity
wrong, and
tests.
yeah, there should be consequences for that.
But there aren't.
6%.
Okay.
But there are. Where
and there
have the
should be. So
feminists
we agree
been?
on that. Next.
Right? You can agree, but you haven't covered it. And that's my point: is you guys don't care about equality. You want freedom at the expense of men.
Okay, sure. Next.
Do you think that men should have the right to opt out of fatherhood, since women have the right to opt out of motherhood?
No. Put a condom on. You don't want to have children, put a condom on.
Or require him to wear a condom. That's equal.
Yeah.
That choice is equally irresponsible.
He's the one with the Johnson. He gets to decide what he does with it.
I think I'm more of a feminist than you.
Sure. Go great. Congratulations.
Literally. It's so bad.
This is the longest 30 minutes of my life.
Right. I think it's the longest 30 minutes of a lot of our lives.
I'm going to interject again if I can.
All right.
I'm done. If the moderator is having to get involved again because Davis has once again ran out of things to debate on her own debate, like she showed up to debate and she just ran out of gas. She's got nothing left. So now the mod has to step in and try and ask her once again, oh, what about the anecdotal stories you were talking about? How many anecdotal stories do we really need from her, right? She didn't bring stats. She didn't bring statistics. Absolutely destroyed. It's called vasectomy. No, I think that that was more of a what's the opposite of a vasectomy on the other side of it? Like I feel like I feel like that debate was worse than a vasectomy. That debate was like an orchiectomy. Like that debate just removed everything. But I'm going to start wrapping this up. We've been going on over 3 hours. It was nice seeing you here, Kyle. We did a whole lot of different variety of politics. It was a lot of fun. I will be back on Monday, and I hope that y'all all have a great weekend. This debate was a massacre. I've never seen a debate this one-sided. It was so bad. I can't even, like, Davis had nothing. Davis had no Riz. Davis had no facts. Davis had like not even good gotchas. What she was going for as like gotcha questions just did not make sense as gotchas. And to pull the whole line of like, I'm a better feminist than you are when Anna is not a feminist, like doesn't claim the label as feminist, is just like ridiculous. But I hope y'all enjoy your weekends. We will be back on Monday for another one, and we will